Hello, and welcome to Occult Academy, episode 4, or at least we hope it's episode 4, because if I haven't, I've just ballsed it up. I'm just kidding. Right, so we've got we've got an interesting episode for people in this one. So just before the show started, Steve and I have had a chat, and I think for this one, Steve, I'm definitely going to bring up the caveats, warnings, trigger warnings, especially because I think this is a subject that definitely needs to be, let's say, pointed out, emphasized, overemphasized, re-emphasized, however you want to look at that. It comes under the banner of natural law and the occult, but equally it also comes under the banner of current events and, let's say, human behaviors or immoral human behaviors in action. So that being said, welcome to Occult Academy episode 4. We hope you're going to stick with us for the whole episode. If you can't watch it all at once, please feel free to come back and, pick up from it at another point in time where you can hopefully get the full presentation and enjoy it and get the full benefit from it. That being said, let's get up some screens. Right. I'm going to bring up some caveat warnings. Right, get off the screen. Okay, so specifically for our podcast, so for Steve and so I don't know if have I introduced us yet, Steve. So my name's Nathan Lucius, and my friend and partner over here in crime is Steve James, and we're going to present yet another presentation for you. Right, that's done because I can't remember if I did it or not, and I'm waffling. Right, caveats and warnings. That doesn't want to bloody work. Oh my god, again. It's not doing it again. There we go. Right. Can you see that all right?
Yeah, that's
Stop
coming
coming
up
up on the
okay.
screen.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So first of all, we are not advocating for any kind of abusive or immoral behavior at all, ever. This presentation and podcast is for education and book review purposes only. So I've said book review, so obviously it's based on the book Fake Awake that we've both written together. However, this is also a look at current events, so I just thought I'd add that little bit in there. Neither Steve or Nathan advocate for Satanism or the dark occult ever. We're not advocates of either of the above. We're not suggesting that you go out and take part in dark occult rituals. We don't agree with it. We're just trying to bring information to the people about what goes on in the world and try and shed a little bit of light on it, explain why it's happening, what it's based on, and hopefully how we can stop it, or rather stop the dark practices and improve the world. So this information is presented in the interests of education, learning, understanding, and cognitive improvement. I haven't even been drinking yet, Steve. Speaking of which, where's your whiskey? Right. 3, the information presented here is correct to the best of our abilities. So as with all things, we may make mistakes. If we do, please point them out to us and we will endeavor to do our best to rectify it in future episodes. So if we do make mistakes, let us know, or I'm sure if we figure it out ourselves, we'll update it. Like when Numpty here says that my microchip's got a microphone in it, and I meant it's got sorry, oh, bloody, I've done it again. It's got a speaker, not a microphone. Never mind. See,
We know what
See,
you're talking about.
human error. There you go. Information provided here is based upon the book Fake Awake, but in this case, it's also based on Steve's many brilliant presentations on the occult and natural law, as well as we'll come into it, recent events. I think they come under the political banner. Is that what we're putting it under? Politics and
I guess so. Yeah.
immoral behavior, frightful behavior, even. Okay,
hmm
so we are doing this to improve human knowledge, understanding, and consciousness, and hopefully to improve the behavior of the human race and make a better world for all of us. Some of the information, views, opinions, and content presented here may offend. This is not intentional. Just an extra trigger warning at this point. Some of the material to be discussed in this particular podcast could very well offend, but it's not us doing the offending this time. It's quite offensive in nature, and I mean I think
Mm.
everyone, including us, are quite offended by what we're going to talk about in upcoming slides. If you're not offended by it, I would question why not. But again, people say being offended is a choice. So how do we get around this one? It is offensive, isn't it? I think it's
I,
certainly immoral.
I mean, it's all over the news. So if
Yeah,
people can watch the news, they can listen to what we've got to discuss, I'm sure, this evening.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So, mate, I'm going to finish that little bit off. We are simply providing information and knowledge to bring a little bit of light on the subject of the occult, natural law, conspiracy, information, and anything else that might fall under the banner of spiritual enlightenment, etc., etc. Right. That being said, Steve, I'm gonna take that off the screen, and I'm gonna let you take over. There we go. Feel free to pop yours back on the screen, mate.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'll just get that straight up.
Fantastic. So,
Um,
there you go. It's doing me zoom in part again.
right, I'll just put that on as, because this is a PowerPoint presentation, I'll just put this as a, let's see. That's come up, has it? It's come up on my screen.
Yeah, it's there, mate. You've got it. It's a little bit of a delay, but I wouldn't worry about it. It does it with mine sometimes as well. So, but it's up on the screen. Everything's there, fine.
Yeah.
So,
well, I've got to say, this is probably one of my shortest presentations. So, hey, hopefully we'll kind of, I was going to say whiz through this, but you know, at the minute, I don't get the impression we'll whiz through anything. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, the last episode of Fake Awake that we did, it was supposed to be like 2 hours maximum, and we had to split it into 3 parts. And I think it was just under 6 hours in total. Which, how the hell we managed to drag it out that long, I don't know. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it was very valuable.
Yeah, I think we got some excellent points across.
Yeah.
And for the 5 hours and 30 minutes, we talked a lot of waffle.
Yeah.
No, do you know what? It is what it is, and hopefully some people will benefit from maybe longer discussions where we can drag things out and, you know, really get to the, you know, and drag a lot of other things into the mix to make this information, I don't know, rounded and you know, detailed, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'd like to think that we are doing that. We're giving a rounded opinion. We're not giving a biased opinion, or at least I'd hope we're not. We're giving facts as best we can. We're giving, it's factual information as far as what I'm trying to say. We're trying to present you with factual information, linking it in with the usual subjects, and then we're having a discussion about it. So it's almost as if we're reviewing it real time as we're going through it. And I'd hope that the effect that has on the viewing audience is that they too can start then to think, oh, well, actually, that's a good point, and I can see how that relates to that, and how that can affect that, and how my behavior might have been affected by that particular issue over there, etc., etc. So I don't know. I think it's I like the formula that we do it.
Yeah,
we got a lot of good feedback. I mean, for the first two, I don't know what the third episode feedback was like, because I've not checked YouTube since it's uploaded this afternoon. But we did have a lot of good feedback, especially during the chat when the second part released, or the first part. It was the first part, I think. It was the people in chat were very, very complimentary. Very good feedback, all positive. So I can only take away from that good things.
Yeah.
So we must be doing something right, mate.
Well, let's try to continue in the same vein. I mean, if people are getting benefit from what we're discussing, this is brilliant, because this is obviously what we want to do. And I mean, the subject, because it's quite unfamiliar to a lot of people, and it's outside of our general consensus and subject matter material, it's kind of new to a lot of folks. So hopefully by drawing it out and discussing things and ironing all the wrinkles, hopefully this can be digestible to people.
I'd like to think it is. I mean, I think the way that we present it, both of us, I'd like to think that it's just two blokes having a discussion from an enlightened perspective. I'd like to think that's how we do it. And if people can relate to that, brilliant. So,
I've got to admit, I'm impressed with the fact that we give caveats and warnings, and then we've already written a book called Fake Awake, which, so if people can read that and not be offended, then I don't think there's anything we can talk about really that's going to
I mean, to be fair, mate, we could probably do an episode about my opening caveats and warnings in Fake Awake. I think there's 16 of them, and it's
Is
just,
it?
oh, mate, we've right. Just sorry, I know we're doing it already. We're going off on a bloody tangent already. So just you and I both know somebody who took offence at
Mm.
one item on there, just one item.
Yeah,
I'm not going to mention what it is, but when you told me, I'm like, well, we haven't even written about that. It's not
yeah.
even in the book, right? And it gets two mentions in the book. And as far as I'm concerned, you mentioned it in one of your like
Mm.
segments, and all the only mention I made of it was at the beginning of the book, which said I'm not one of them. So
Yeah,
I don't agree with that. And this particular individual was like, well, I'm not reading your book because you're advocating for that. It's like, really?
yeah.
Okay. We're not really, but uh, okay. Fine. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. But I just
Yeah,
found it
and
quite comical.
I
So,
know
so
exactly who and what you're talking about there.
yeah.
Do you know what?
Um,
I think that kind of brings us on to this presentation, which is
yes. Yeah.
entitled WTF, and I'm pretty sure most discerning viewers can guess what those initials stand for, as you can see by the gentleman scratching his head. But should we get into it?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of stick another caveat out there as well.
Go for it.
So I think the pair of us are a little bit potty mouthed, especially after we've had a few drinks. So we are going to do our level best not to swear for the first 30 minutes. So that YouTube doesn't give us a smack on the wrist, basically.
Mm,
Um, I suspect as we go further into it, a few might pop out along the way, but
mm.
we'll just see where it goes. Right, Steve, this is a fantastic presentation you got for us. Talk us through it. Let's
Hopefully, I hope
what's
it's
going on?
of benefit. But let's get into it, as I say. But
Yeah.
WTF? Well, what's it about? Well, as we can see here, what is happening in the world today and why? How do we come to a better understanding of such a complex environment? And what can we do as individuals to improve the conditions we are experiencing in the world? And I'm going to start off by mentioning the term an evolution in consciousness. So if anyone is familiar with either my presentations or the offerings I give on the Occult Academy Telegram group, for example, I'll often talk about a mental revolution. That's the words I usually use, a mental revolution, because we need, essentially what that means is an evolution in consciousness.
Yeah.
And I think you'd have to be a bit deranged to argue that having a better perspective and a better understanding is detrimental to any condition. Of course, it's never going to be that way. An evolution in consciousness simply means betterment towards the way we think and the way and if we can think in a more astute matter with a better understanding, then so we can act and so the world will improve. But anyway, what have I got here? Time and progress does not run backwards. So we need to stop living in the past. We need to stop dwelling in the past and dragging past mistakes into our future. The way we do that is by having an evolution in consciousness in this moment in time, in the present. So if progress does not evolve, we stagnate and we decay. And I think it's a fair point to say that when we look outside the world, the window to the world today, it's not really smelling of roses, is it? It's kind of, I would say, it's decline. There's violence, tyranny, enslavement. There's all sorts of negative factors. And a lot of people think, well, oh, you only dwells on the negative factors. Yeah, there's loads of great stuff happening. But if you want more of them, we need to apply the evolution in consciousness to make that great stuff more prevalent.
Can I just chip in just
Yeah.
quickly? So I'm going to say within truther circles or the New Age circle or within that particular label of identity or whatever you want to put it
Mm,
down to, conspiracy theorists and stuff like that. There is a massive issue with the word evolution, right? And there's a lot of people say, "Oh, there's no such thing." They get really triggered by it. Now, personally, I would
mm,
disagree with that. However, I'm not here to argue the merits of evolution, especially in this particular podcast. But what I
mm,
what I would say is, in terms of evolution, everything evolves. just to give a short example, right? So I'm surrounded here. I've got computers. Well, they've evolved. I mean, they're bloody lightning quick, and they're capable of virtual reality and all kinds of
Mm,
fantastic things these days. But the computers that we have today are the calculators of 50, 60 years ago. Kind of,
mm.
just to give a bit of a comparison there. You go from one stage to the next. It's when something changes from one form to another using and it adapts certain things into it. It adjusts itself. It changes to improve, right? So when we're talking about evolution, I just want people without triggering anybody who doesn't like evolution, doesn't agree with it, whatever. Right, take your smartphone. That is a product of evolution. Take your PCs, that's a product of evolution. Take cars, product of evolution. Uh, Clothes, furnishings, everything. These things change over time. They adapt, they change, they improve, they process. That is evolution. So when you use the term evolution in consciousness, that's exactly what we're trying to get to here, which is to promote a change for the better, right? It's for us to adapt to the world, to adapt to this information, to adapt our behaviors in order to improve them, in order to progress, in order to become better, all of that. So I just want to add that in about evolution.
Yeah,
The
that's
other
a
little
great.
thing I want to say is I've got a personal saying about you've just said there, decay is the stage preceding death, and I absolutely agree with that. And I've got
Mm,
a phrase which is stagnation equals death. So when something stops evolving, so it's like if you imagine evolution like a spiral going out constantly, right? If it's not evolving, then it starts to circle. And then if it slows down, it starts to lose momentum, which is decay, right? And eventually, if it stops, that's death. So stagnation is death. So when something stops evolving, we've got a problem. We need to keep evolving. And that especially applies to things like consciousness, right? Because if our consciousness societally is becoming stagnant, we've got a problem. I mean, we've got a really big problem. Why is my fancy pants laptop stop flipping zooming in? What's going on with that? Uh, anyway, I just wanted to add that because this is one of the things that when we talk about critical thinking, it's just what I would advocate is just stop getting triggered by key phrases and words. Just because you don't agree with something doesn't mean you don't have to listen to it, or you don't have to learn it, or you don't have to be open. Just be open to everything. Just be guarded, be discerning, be judgmental. Fine, take those things, but just have an open mind going into this stuff. Think of
mm.
it from different perspectives. Think of it from a different angle. That's all we're asking, right? And part of the evolution of consciousness is the ability to do exactly that. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah,
So
it's
right.
brilliant points there. Do you know what? While I remember, I think I wrote in Fake Awake that I think I concentrated on a few different numbers, and one of those numbers was four, simply because we all know there's four seasons, and some of us might appreciate that God allegedly built the material world within 4 days.
Yep.
Okay, not the didn't build the universe. This was the
No,
material
I know what
world.
you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, for why? Because many things, let's just say the human body, the human life, goes through four stages. It goes through birth, growth, decay, and death. And it follows, as I've said here, if we stagnate and decay, we end up to the following stage, which is death. Now, you mentioned evolution as well, and I think that's an excellent point because the opposite of evolution, we could say, is involution.
Yeah.
And there is a statement in occult terms that's known as the force of involution. And when the world decays because it's stagnated with its understanding, certainly of morality, and certainly decayed in its level of consciousness, well, that's what we're seeing outside when we open the windows on the world today. It's the force of involution at play. But
Yep.
I'll go on to the next slide
Well said,
because
mate. Yeah.
we need to know what's as to our current level of, the current state in the world today. So I'm going to just do a little, very, very quick potted history. I'm going to start off in Roman times.
My favorite period of history, Roman times. I
Really?
love the Roman. Half these books behind me, there's Roman history all over the place. It's like
Yeah.
books and books and books on it. So yeah, I love this stuff anyway. So
Fascinating. Well,
It is.
as this picture might give the game away a little bit, this is about the Roman gladius. And the gladius was an exceptionally dangerous sword due to its effectiveness in close quarters combat, typical of Roman warfare. Its short, double-edged and well-balanced blade, designed with a sharp tapered point, allowed Roman soldiers to deliver lethal blows, which resulted in millions of deaths. Millions of deaths. So, from one bloody part of history to another, and this young woman is holding an AK-47. That's a very particular number. That you're probably familiar with that in the Freemasonic tradition. The 47th problem of Euclid is massively important. And I'm going to hold it at that for the time being. I'm just going to mention this AK-47 because an estimated 100 million of these and their many variants have been produced, making them incredibly common globally. The AK-47 is often cited as the weapon with the highest death toll due to its widespread use, and millions of deaths have been caused over decades of conflict and criminal activity with this particular weapon. So, moving on.
Sorry, can I ask a
Yeah,
military question, mate?
of course you
Going
can.
back to I mean, again, as far as weaponry is concerned, you lose me at the end of the Middle Ages. So I go from the ancient period to the Middle Ages, and then after that, yeah, I'm not so good with stuff until maybe the Second World War. But so right, first of all, so the AK-47, it's a Kalashnikov, right? I think that's the Russian name for it. It's a
Yeah.
Russian rifle. Would I? And again, I'm not trying to be clever. I don't know. This is why I'm about to ask you, right? So, it was this introduced during the Viet Cong period with the Vietnam War, or does this go further back? I mean, why
Oh yeah, further
why
back.
this weapon?
Um, well, I believe the 47 is when the year came out, 1947. I mean, I'm not 100% on that, but that's what I currently believe to be true. It was around about 1947 when this was produced. It's been in production ever since. In fact, there's Russian variants, there's Chinese variants. I fired many different variants of this weapon. And one of the reasons for its success is as they say, you can literally bury this in the soil or the desert and uncover it months later without doing much in terms of cleaning it. It'll still be good to go and reliable.
Right,
So it's robust, simple, bomb-proof, and
bomb-proof.
popular. Bomb-proof, yeah. I mean,
Well,
not literally,
okay,
but robust. Doesn't break readily. Easily interchangeable parts.
right.
Um, cheap to produce. Not as cheap as this one because we've kind of let's just say the weaponry has evolved over time, and this is known as the Tsar Bomber, a 50 megaton thermonuclear bomb. And again, I'm not arguing the toss whether these actually exist in reality or not, because I know there's an ongoing debate over that. Like again,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't.
fair enough. But we're not. Yeah, just to clarify, whether they're a thing or not, that's not the subject or the topic that we're covering here.
Yeah,
This is so let's just
yeah.
yeah.
So this was developed by the Soviet Union, and it is more than 1,500 times more powerful than the combined yield of the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a yield of 50 megatons, and it is considered to be the most powerful and destructive single weapon ever created. So
Right.
that gives a little bit of a potted history through time, the evolution. So I advocate for an evolution in consciousness. What I've just covered there is 3 slides giving a bit of an evolution of the development of different types of weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But that brings me on to this particular substance, the human brain, which is the most powerful weapon on Earth. It's more powerful than the Gladius, the AK-47, and the Tsar Bomber, because the human brain is a complex organ responsible for controlling movement, senses, emotion, and thought. It is protected by the skull and consists of interconnected neurons and cells that process information received from the senses. It can be described as a supercomputer simply due to its efficient and complex computational power. Its processing ability is conducted across billions of neurons and trillions of connections, achieving a level of efficiency and power that surpasses even the most powerful artificial systems. And you know the very interesting part of this, the most powerful weapon on Earth? Everybody has got one. Everybody.
I mean, you wouldn't think so half the time, but
yeah. Do you know why? Because the evolution of consciousness hasn't given us the best operating instructions on how to use this weapon to its best advantage. And when I say a weapon, I'm going to change that to tool, because this is a tool.
Yeah.
And a tool can be, and I know where you probably know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I like.
Yeah,
it's a good. Yeah, carry on. Explain it, because it's a good analogy.
So I could pick almost any tool on Earth, but I could pick a hammer, a screwdriver, a crowbar, a monkey wrench, a Stanley knife. But I'm going to go with the hammer analogy. A hammer is a tool. A hammer can be used to create a building where we can live, where we can conduct work, where we can earn money, or it could be used to destroy the same building and keep us in a world full of suffering. A tool can be used for good or bad. It's how we use the tool that's the important thing. And the thing that makes us decide is this thing here, the most powerful weapon on Earth.
I absolutely agree. I mean, it's the tool that creates all the other tools, isn't it? So therefore, it is the king of tools, good or bad. If you want, if you want to refer to weapons, then it's the king of weapons. If you want to refer to something productive, it's the king of all things productive. If you want to talk about progress, it's the king of progress. It's the king of however it's being used, which then suggests that we need to start redirecting it to more positive, productive outputs.
Exactly.
Modify our behavior. I'm just going to stick some on, mate. It's a bit cold, so I'm going to put a dress on. I'm going to put my wizard robes on.
Get yourself a hat like me, because I'm in the conservatory and it's freezing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems to have gone really cold again the last couple of days, so I don't know what the hell's happening. Well, yeah. It's January, I guess, so there is that. Anyway.
I'll tell you what, Nathan, I'm just noticing there's no escape from your computer. It's following you everywhere.
See, I told you, mate, the spying on me. They're just this is just proof that the bloody spying on me. So I might not even be joking about that. But anyway, yeah.
Right. So this brings me on. I guess, you know, we've talked at the beginning that there's probably going to be a bit of, well, we didn't even use the word controversy, but I guess this could be classed as a controversial subject simply because it's quite fresh in the news. And I must admit, if anyone's not familiar with this, for the next few days, I think this is going to be all over the news, and rightly so, because this is probably one of the most horrific things I've witnessed in terms of the needless, unnecessary, mindless thuggery and violent death of a young man, defenseless young man, needlessly. Absolutely horrific. So if people aren't familiar with this, I mean, this slide is called as cold as ice.
Sorry, sorry, mate. Because obviously this is the bit that we were on about when we're talking about trigger warnings, right? So a lot of what you're going to talk about in this slide, I think we'll talk about it a little bit after you've read out the slide as well. But it just, as you're explaining it, can you explain it to me as if I'm as if I've not watched the news for 10 years or something like that? Because again, I'm familiar with what the organization is, I'm familiar with the events, but I don't know the full details. We'll talk about a certain parody of this But I'll let you do the slide first. So just, but again, this is where the trigger warning comes in because this is brutal. So if you can just give us as much information about what's happened, try and keep it objective, I guess, so that we don't get accused of siding or being misled or any of that shit. Oh, again, there you go. Well, there goes there. That.
Nearly.
Well, almost.
Yeah.
Right, go for it, mate.
I'll tell you what, before I start yakking on it, is there any chance that you can shift the little box where the photo of us is so we can read that text box I've got?
Is that
Is
any
that
better?
No, it didn't
Oh,
move at all. Is that
right.
if not, it's not a big drama.
I
It's
was going
just
to say,
for
right. So if you just hover over it with your mouse, because I've lifted it up on mine, but I think you've got to do it on yours. So
right, okay.
yeah, and then if you
Ah,
just lift it up out the way, that should help you with that. Is that any better?
yeah, perfect. It's
Brilliant.
literally just so I can,
Yeah.
people can see what I'm going to read out. You know what? Because I've mentioned it, I'm going to read that out now.
Okay.
Because we've come from the human brain and we've said it's basically the most powerful weapon or tool on Earth. But anyway, we'll also cover the Gladius, the AK-47, the Tsar bomber, the thermonuclear device. But a sword will not cut flesh without a hand to wield it, and a gun won't pull its own trigger. The human mind is the deciding factor behind all our actions. And history has proved that following the immoral will of those who claim rulership is the mechanism that enables the large-scale immoral behavior. This immoral behavior is the stuff that causes the the force of involution, the force that when we look outside the world and we see what's going on, we see it's all turning pear-shaped, should we say. Why? Because the human mind is not in the place it needs to be in order to govern the behaviors necessary to change it for the better. And this is where we need to change. But anyway, this brings me on to this particular incident. I believe it was yesterday, so it's very, very fresh. And this involved the death of a young man, the name of Alex Pretty, I believe, an American citizen. I believe he was an ICU nurse. And he was, again, most people probably know this incident probably better than me at this point in time because I've only seen small amounts of footage. But as cold as ice, he was killed by the ICE team, who are the immigration's officers, like a law enforcement branch in America. I think particularly in Minnesota is one of the states that these people are involved with. And this, of course, is a fairly new scheme that was implemented by the Trump administration. Now, many people as well are calling this particular team Trump's Gestapo, simply because the Gestapo in Nazi Germany, if people aren't aware of that, they were literally like a law enforcement type branch, a paramilitary unit that would enforce intimidation and fear tactics upon the population in order really to get them to be compliant. That fear is and the tactics that they employed is not too dissimilar to what we're seeing here. And again, I'm not commenting massively because there's a lot of there's probably a lot of things for people to weigh up in order to come to that conclusion. But my background, I was a soldier. I was a professional soldier for pretty much the best part of 3 decades. And when I saw this footage, I was immediately horrified. So I'm not trying to be judgmental here, but immediately I thought, this man has just been, I'm not going to use the word summary executed, but I would say it was just 2 shades below that. He was practically executed on the streets and other film coverage has come out to show that this guy, even though he had a weapon, and again, this is part of his Second Amendment rights in America, legally entitled to have a weapon carried. He did not have it in his hand. It was taken out of his holster, presumably, from what I've seen, by one of the ICE officers. So this Alex Pretty's weapon was taken out of his holster by an ICE member, and immediately he was shot in the back. And several of the ICE officers then went on to deliver more rounds into his body. Somewhere in the region, I mean, I counted somewhere in the region of 12 shots by possibly 3 or 4 different shooters. So I must admit, if anyone's in law enforcement or the military, if I had seen that amongst anyone I'd work with, I would suspect that these would be facing jail time for murder.
Well,
And
that was going to be a question, which is where's the accountability? I mean, are they facing jail time for this? Is there going to be consequences for actions, or is this just problem reaction solution? Is this, what's the word? I don't want to use the word psyop because, I mean, it could be. Well, it's a very brutal one if it is. I don't quite know how to approach this. Are we saying that this is an engineered event? Is what I'm trying to get at.
I mean, I don't believe it was an engineered event.
Right.
It didn't look synthetic to me. I mean,
Oh no, I don't mean. Yeah, sorry. Just
yeah,
to be clear, I mean clearly somebody's being killed by this, right? So
yeah.
I don't mean that it's not real. What I mean is but I've got to put another caveat in because I don't want to incriminate myself or anything like that. But so potentially, is this a social engineering tactic that is deliberate or
Yeah,
has been allowed to happen? I'm trying to be very careful with that.
well, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
I believe that it is, and I believe that this is part of what could be established as a MyHop. And for people who haven't heard of that, that means make it happen on purpose. So this is, I mean, this is almost. I'm not giving away secrets here, by the way. This is kind of, you could say, this is how soldiering works. So if you're an infantry soldier, you might be tasked to do something basically, which is a tactical advance to battle, which is essentially you're walking to an area where you believe enemy to be, enemy soldiers, enemy combatants, and your presence is designed to draw out the enemy fire, enemy positions, who will then engage you, and then you will know, oh, well, yeah, we're getting engaged upon. That's where the enemy is. So basically, you set yourself up into an ambush. You get ambushed by enemy soldiers. You determine where they are, and then you can take them on, so to speak. In other words, if you didn't wander into that, area where you knew the enemy combatants to be, there'd be no exchange of fire. Nothing would happen. This is similar in concept to what a MyHelp is. You want to engineer a strategic effect for whatever aims, gains, and purposes. Then what you have to do is provoke that incident to occur. So we mentioned a number before. It was number 47.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it runs parallel with what's known as the 47th problem of Euclid, which is a Masonic allegory. I'll kind of call it that, in a Masonic allegory, very important in the Masonic tradition. And again, if people want to understand that, please look it up. But it's important to Freemasonic societies, and it's curious to see that ICE teams, and I've seen this delivered on the news many times recently, ICE teams apparently have 47 days worth of training in order to become qualified in their role. Now, for me, looking at that as an ex-professional soldier, I would say that these guys are just a complete bunch of rogue cowboys, undisciplined, with absolutely no due process. That incident there was absolutely disgraceful. If that's what ICE are capable of, I would say, well, I would say stand by, because this to me, I mean, that to me is probably designed deliberately as a strategic gain in order to implement, I would almost conjecture, to 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 garner something in line of something like civil war or civil disobedience in order to bring about, let's just say, New World Order effects.
What you mean, like martial law, gun controls, or further gun controls, bans on carrying handguns, things like that? Yeah, I think we know where that's leading up to. To be fair, and again, whether you agree with it or not, we're just being objective about this. We're just looking at it, seeing where it's going. So whether you're for or against, it's not what we're doing here. We're just taking information, looking at it, seeing what it potentially is based on, where it's going, etc. One of the things that I mentioned to you earlier is, I think about 4 months ago, South Park released an episode on ice, funnily enough, and it was hilarious until you realise that this kind of thing really happens, right? So I mean, it's like it's an adult cartoon, so you know it's quite fun. It's meant to be funny, but they I say they parodied it. But obviously, this has just happened recently. The episode that they released was 3 or 4 months ago, so this, what I'm saying is, this seems to be a known problem for South Park to take something like this and point it out as a problem, and then for the way they did it. Why are we only hearing about this in the UK now? Because this is, you mentioned, this is the second instance, the second shooting of a civilian from ICE in what, since January the 7th?
Yeah, January 7th, I believe it was the Renee Good, I believe was the name. Basically, a woman who was shot at point blank range in the face in a car. And again, I mean, I've seen the footage of that, and I'll be quite honest, unless, of course, she had some sort of let's just say gun pointed at somebody that was that we couldn't see in the film footage, then that was another summary execution. That was just unjustified murder.
Well, that's again, look, whether I don't want to come across as a conspiracy theorist, but it certainly looks like it was an execution to me. But I'm only getting it from second and third hand information. I mean, like, so when we've discussed this today, when you brought it up, I'm just like, well, I thought this was in the news a couple of weeks back, and you're like, no, it's another one. Oh, right, okay. So clearly this is a problem, right? This is a known problem in America. We only seem to be just getting the news coming through in the UK about this kind of stuff now. But anyway, without wanting to stay on this particular issue, because obviously I don't want to direct it away from
exactly
the presentation. But I think what we're trying to point out here is that, one, this is the result of statism when it gets absolute power. This is the result of not having consequences for your actions. Well, I mean, it does have consequences. It's just that there doesn't seem to be any accountability attached to this. So that's an immoral action that's being carried out here, without punishment, without correct behavior being applied here, without correct what's the word I'm looking for? The actions are not being rectified. The behaviors are not being treated as they're supposed to be treated in a moral society. To me, this is very concerning for many reasons. But it's like you mentioned about the Gestapo there. It's history repeating, the cycle's repeating, and we all know what happens next. It's terrifying. But anyway. So
we'll kind of move on from this, because again, like you say, this isn't the context of this presentation, but it is topical, and it's also, my full sympathies to this guy who's, to me, he's just been murdered needlessly. Absolute crying shame. But it serves as a good example of the force of involution at work. When we don't involve in consciousness, and we don't understand and adhere to the principles of creation and the laws of nature, called natural law, this is what we're going to encounter, and we're going to see this a lot more. So, okay to move on?
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
Brilliant. So freedom, the solution. What we need in the world is more freedom. I'm sure anyone in the truth community, anyone in the freedom community, well, this is what do you want? Well, you want freedom. Well, how do you get it? Well, this is the solution. And I have put in the top there, if it's not you, who? And if it's not now, when? But what I'm asking for, what I'm stating here is only a raised level of consciousness will generate the conditions required to achieve freedom in society. Many people have resigned to believing that they are fully awakened because they've come to learn about the fake health emergency. And am I allowed to say that? It's too late.
Well,
I've said
it's
it
clear
now.
what you're referring to. So but we've not
Yeah.
mentioned anything specifically. We're not. I think we're all right with that. Carry on.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, many people have done some rudimentary research to learn more about the world around them as a result of that thing that happened 6 years ago. Awakening, however, has many levels, and only a society with more people at a deeper level will develop the success we desire. The awakening of society starts with ourselves, and it is an alchemical process that requires individual effort in order to work. And the reason I mentioned that, and the reason I've actually mentioned alchemical, is because we can learn every last thing about the health emergency and understand the medication that was given out as a result of that. We can know that to a high degree, but unless we go down an alchemical process of actually evolving the grey matter on the most powerful tool in the world, then we are not going to get any further forward. Everybody knows that was a complete psyop, hoax, false flag, whatever you want to call it. Everybody, the whole world knows that. Even the people who are dumb enough to pretend they're still living in clown world.
I think at a
Most people,
subconscious level, certainly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, loads of people know. However, they can't evolve in consciousness because they've not done the alchemical work necessary. Now, we can read books and conspiracy information till the end of time, but until we actually go down the process of actually learning how to achieve that higher level of consciousness, that deeper level of awakening, as our book would kind of suggest and recommend, then this freedom thing that we want is never going to happen. It's a physical impossibility. And as you know, Nathan, the parameters, the science of natural law actually shows us and demonstrates provably that certain conditions have to be met in order for this freedom criteria to be possible.
Yeah, perfect. Just a couple of things on this one as well. Do you mind if I just because
Yeah,
the
just
reason I
jump
keep
in
stopping
whenever.
you is because no, you've got some really, really good stuff on your slides, and a couple of things that stand out to me as you go through it. So, I mean, obviously, freedom, yes, freedom is the solution. Morality equals freedom. They're directly proportional, but we can come. I think we've done that one to a high degree in the last couple of episodes. So I'm gonna move past that briefly, but I want to just pick up on this one here.
Yeah.
You mentioned about a lot of people were woken up by the health emergency, the fake health emergency, right? Whether you agree with that or you don't, it's not what this podcast's about. Specifically, we're talking about the occult and human behavior and natural law. What we have both seen, or I'd like to think a large portion of people have seen at this point, is that it was a catalyst, right? And so that the good thing that came out of that is a lot of people started looking at things like the health services, like politics, like the media especially, and just going, hang on a minute, that doesn't make sense. That is clearly not true, patently not true, or that's been used to twist the narrative, that's been used as propaganda, that's been used to form public opinion. That's right. We can see that that's occurred, and whether you want to call that an awakening process, personally, I prefer to call it an awareness. People's awareness has been enlarged by this. But as you rightly say, conspiracy theorists, it's almost like they thrive on the dark stuff, right? It's almost like they thrive on
you're not thinking of entertaining themselves with conspiracies, are you? Because I do get that impression that there's a lot of people now at the point of we're just entertaining ourselves with the latest. Oh, look, look at the numbers involved with this particular incident and that one. Now, I'm not saying that's not a thing, but what I'm saying is, there's numbers and occult themes. If you're picking that up, then you've got to stop stagnating and develop, because stagnating and entertaining oneself with the latest, oh, look what they're now doing. All of this is pointing to the solution, which is natural law. We
Yeah.
can we can go down conspiracies forever, and I could just pick one. I was just going to mention, and sorry to kind of jump in on what you're saying, but if we were to look at the JFK assassination, now that is still topical in terms of the conspiracies behind it. I mean, I could talk on the occult themes in that particular incident for hours, because there's hundreds of examples, but that's never ever going to go away, and it's never ever going to bring us to the conclusion if we stay in that rabbit hole. We need to pop our heads out of the rabbit hole, smell the coffee, and realize that this is leading towards a solution, which is the laws of nature inherent in the universe, natural law. Now, not many people in the truth community are in that arena yet. So hopefully what we're trying to do, and I'm sure you'll agree, is we're trying to pull them by the ears out of the rabbit hole so they can actually see what's going on in order to change the world, instead of just sitting in it, stagnating.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely, which brings me to the other bit. So, well, I mean, you've mentioned it a couple of times, right? So, if not you, who? If not now, when? This is, when I talk about conviction, and it's about okay, you've had your awareness expanded. You've started to see the world in a different way. You've started to realize that certain narratives are propaganda or social engineering or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? That's good. The fact that people's awareness has been expanded, the fact that they're now no longer trusting of the institutions that clearly do not have our best interests at heart. I mean, they're outright lies in some cases. They're just lying to us. They're just deceiving us, misdirecting us for personal gain, profit, all of that. Right? We know. I think we've got a good idea. I think even in, I'm going to say normie circles, right? General population, that there's an understanding that the media isn't necessarily there to tell us the truth. It's there to entertain us effectively, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to entertain us with the truth. It's going to entertain us with stories, and stories can be true or false. It does require conviction, right? And so by conviction, I mean it needs action. So you've got the awareness stage. Now you've followed through with the research, or limited research in many cases, and okay, now you know there's a problem. Now you know what's causing it. So what are you going to do about it? Because this is where conviction comes in, and a lot of people don't know what to do about it, and that's fine. Hopefully, we can come into that. But some people, they kind of do know what to do about it. They're just a bit reluctant to do anything. Maybe they're a bit frightened of making themselves public. Maybe they're a bit frightened of the reaction that they're going to get from their family and friends. But is that really an excuse to allow tyranny to grow and to expand and to take over the world? Personally, I would say no. I would say it was a matter of conscience, as well as education, as well as awareness. It's a matter of conscience, and if you do have a conscience, like Steve and myself, and like many others in the movement, again, I'm not dissing the movement necessarily, but for those who have a conscience, this is very hard to just let it slide. I can't just walk away from this and say, oh, well, it's all right. It's just the world doing what the world does. I'll just sit back and do nothing. Because if we did that, we become complicit. We then become part of the problem. And I'm not really happy to take that mentality. I don't think it's a winning mentality. I don't think it's productive. I don't think it's an evolved consciousness. We often talk about high vibration, high frequency, and stuff like that. Well, if you're refusing to do anything because you're afraid of taking necessary action because of how people might perceive you, or because people might not like you anymore, or because your family might have a bit of a problem with you, you're stuck in fear. You're stuck in the lowest frequency, right? And we need that to escalate. We need it to evolve. We need it within as well, so that the internal frequency of that needs to evolve.
Yeah.
Just that. I mean, you've got a lot of good stuff on your slides, mate, and I'd like to point it out where I see it, so that we can bring it to the fore, and then people could say, actually, yeah, I understand it from that perspective, and yeah, I can see why that might be a problem. I can see how that might be a solution. It's a good slide. But again, the point of doing this is to discuss it, not just to educate. It's to discuss. It's to dissect and to.
Well, do you know, you mentioned a great word there, which is basically conscience. I mean,
Mm,
one of the reasons I no longer serve in the army is because I developed a conscience, and admittedly, it took me a long, long time because if I had not received an education on morality, and I'm talking about understanding things like natural law.
mm,
And I mean, two of the greatest educators I had in my moral education were Mark Passio and Larkin Rose,
yeah,
and the works of which I promote massively in most of the outlets I get the opportunity to. But you mentioned conscience, but also we've been talking about the evolution of consciousness.
yeah,
Now, if we can evolve in consciousness, a mental revolution, well, con- consciousness creates care, and care creates courage, and courage is what's necessary to have the moral conscience to do the right thing.
right.
So for example, it's not easy to leave a job that's paying your mortgage, as I did, with nothing to go to.
Yeah,
But I didn't look back and say, oh well, I'll just keep doing the wrong thing for another few years because, or if I just wait till I get my pension. No, I'm afraid it doesn't work like that. If you understand the right thing to do, you need to act on it immediately, and that takes courage. So you need to develop balls of steel along with you know, more brain cells, if that's the
mm.
right thing to say.
And
But
again, some mate, to be fair, some of this isn't even about people's intellect. I mean, there are some very, very intelligent people, or should I say, intellectual people out there. They might be skilled, they might be engineers, they might be, I don't know, lecturers, professors, scientists, whatever. Take your pick, right? So that's intellectualism. That shows that human capacity for being clever, right?
mm,
But unless there's a conscience behind that, unless there's a holistic side to that as well, then it is just mechanistic. It's machine-like, right? And
exactly.
so, while machines don't care about what's going on outside the factory, they just care about churning out the product and about being oiled and about continue with that. But we're not machines. I mean, we're a biological machine if you want to look at it from that perspective.
Hmm.
Um, there's 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 intellect and there's intelligence,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of people are stuck in intellect, and
Yeah, exactly.
intelligence is a more rounded sphere of understanding.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
if
you can be bright and have intellect, but still stagnate, and
hmm
that's kind of the
yeah,
the whole point, isn't it? I mean, this is the most powerful weapon
yeah,
or tool in the world, and if we're not able to apply it with higher conscience, i.e., evolving consciousness, then this tool's going to be used for negative purposes, and this
hmm
is going to be to everybody's detriment.
yeah. Which it is because it's in the aggregate, it's affecting all of us, right? This is a societal effect. This is cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Um, and this we can see it everywhere. Again, this is an evolution thing.
Mm.
All effects start with a cause. All causes are previous effects of yet more causes, and on it goes, right? So this is what we see from that. But it's I don't where am I going with this? What am I trying to say? Is that it's okay understanding something uh, from the mechanistic standpoint, but unless you understand why it's happening, what to do about it, who's behind it, what's behind it, what are the motivations behind it, unless you start to get a fuller picture of that, you're not you're not really evolving.
Hmm.
But again, I don't
Yeah,
want to. I digress a little bit. So
I
I'm
think
just
I think
yeah.
just before I click on the next slide, I think the thing to for if there was a takeaway from any of this, realize that we're not trying to or the average truther, for example, stop trying to change society, change yourself. It
Right.
has to be like one mind at a time, and it has to start with our own minds. For instance, I mean, our book gives the solutions to how mankind can live in peaceful coexistence. But unless individuals reading it actually apply that understanding upon themselves first, and then work outwardly, then we'll be, fighting a losing battle.
Yeah.
But let's, I guess, before we waffle much more on that, I think what I'm trying to say is we need to change our lead into gold. So I've mentioned an alchemical process here. And again, this is kind of a bit of a curiosity as much as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this kind of incorporates another massively significant occult number, and that number there is number 322. And many of my presentations, if anyone's heard them or been to them, would have heard me talk this millions of times. It does equate to a particular date in the calendar, which is, you might be able to guess, March the 22nd.
22nd. Yeah.
Yeah, the third month, which is the vernal equinox, the spring equinox. It also happens to be a date in the satanic calendar, which is known as the satanic season of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happens to be the same date that let's just say, the lockdowns in the UK were announced. And many other things. I mean, if anyone wanted to go down that road and see what else happened on that day in history, well, there's many examples. The Westminster Bridge attack, for one, in London, the Belgian bomb, the Iraq War shock and awe campaign, the US invasion of Libya. Many acts, you could say, acts of I don't want to use the word. I'm trying to avoid using a word which begins with T and ends in terrorism.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we can use that on YouTube, but I mean, the rules on
Right.
YouTube change that bloody often. I don't know what we can and can't say, so just tread
I'm just trying
carefully.
to,
But
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But anyway, many of those dastardly events took place on that particular date, and I mean, things that go rat-a-tat-a-tat in schools as well. Many of them have happened on that date. Or, I mean, one that springs to mind is another event in, I believe it was Crocus City in Russia, where there was another rat-a-tat-a-tat performance with some terrorists. But anyway,
people make errors all the time, is what we're saying. I mean, again, this is a very clever slide. I mean, I see what you've done there. You've used the periodic table. So this is an alchemical process that in esoteric traditions, in mystery schools, in secret societies such as Rosicrucianism, Freemasonry, etc., what we talk about in terms of alchemy is the transmutation of your mind, body, and spirit from a heavy, dense, cold, dark state and into a higher frequency state of again, mind, body, spirit. And what you've done there, it's really good that 8281 1879, it's almost in reverse, because it goes up and then back down again, so that even that's clever, the way that's on the periodic table. But the numbers, the way you've done that is very clever as well, the way you've added it up. But just to add a little bit more into that. So we call it the season of sacrifice. Well, not as in you and me, but that's what it's referred to as, the season of sacrifice. So 322, so March 22nd. So in the Roman calendar, see, I told you I like the Roman stuff. The season of war started in March, right? Which is where we get the idea of marching, right? So you're marching off to war because it's the springtime. It's associated with Aries, the ram, which is why they used to have take that back to the Bible. Even you got ram's blood, ram's horns, etc. But the Romans would use a ram's horn to as a call to war. Cornucopia or something like that. There was a specific word in Latin for that.
Okay. Not familiar.
I'll come back to it. I'll have to get one of my books out. But basically, it was what one of the standard bearers would carry. They would have this musical instrument that would mimic a horn, and they would take that into battle with them as one of their generals and standard bearers, etc., etc. Anyway, then you've got the Campus Martius, which again, March, camp of March, camp of Mars, which is the planet Mars, which is associated with war, which is associated with Aries, which is associated with spring, which blood, etc., etc. So there's so much in this that again, it's very clever, but I just love the way that particular alchemical process shows up in the periodic table, from turning lead into mercury to gold, etc. And then
It's
again,
awesome,
it's an
isn't it?
internal process. What
Yeah,
we're talking about here is you change internally before you change it the external. The universe will reflect to you what you put out. I think that's one of the highest Rosicrucian and Freemasonic teachings there is that your internal state is projected into the external. So the esoteric becomes the exoteric, and then the exoteric affects the esoteric. So it's a two-way process: as above, so below; as within, so without. And so this is how that works. So when we're talking about alchemy, we're basically talking about it's a change of frequency, it's a change of form, it's a change of thought, it's a change of behaviors. All of those things is what this is inferring. So I just thought I'd add that little bit of esoteric stuff in there
yeah.
for you.
Do you know what? I mean, I've actually put down at the bottom there. It's don't be weighed down in inverted commas by an inferior understanding, and that inferior understanding is it's not necessarily understanding everything there is to do with conspiracies. This is to do with truth and principle, and
Mhm.
truth and principle leads to a conclusive understanding of how natural law functions. This isn't something you can just put a pie chart up or a graph and then you will come away thinking, oh yeah, the answer is natural law. It has to be a process that works in here. The most powerful tool on earth. It has to be processed, digested, disseminated, contemplated, reasoned with, philosophized with.
Mhm.
But we can't do that. I mean, I could tell somebody the answer. You could tell somebody the answers. Many people could tell the whole world, is essentially, or individuals, what the answer is, but it needs to be reasoned with. Natural law has to be acquired and attuned to by reason, and that has to be through truth and principle. And one thing I'll quite often say is people need to stop beliefs, because when we fill our minds with belief, and that could be belief in, let's just say, religion, it could be belief in new age fluff, it could be the belief in, oh well, if I maintain positive thoughts, I'll manifest, delight into the world. If that's your belief, if beliefs are taken place in your head, then you have got less room for the processes involved to
Mhm.
digest and disseminate truth and principle, which leads to the understanding of natural law. So that's what I refer to when I say understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
So lead to gold, by the way, this is an alchemical process that a lot of people think, oh, it's the transmutation of metal to change lead into gold in order to become wealthy. Yep, it's about spiritual wealth. The lead, I mean, you give a great analogy. I quite often like to use the term that lead, it's dense, i.e., uh, 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 it's dense, but it's also malleable. That means it can be shaped and
Mm.
molded, but it's not easy to mold. But when you do, it can turn into gold, which is precious and everlasting. And that's where we need to aim for.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So, on to the next slide. Again, it's kind of touching upon 322, which is also a particular secret society, we could say, which is Skull and Bones Lodge
I was
number
going to say, I think we
322.
can say that. I mean, it's quite well known at this point, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see why we can't mention that.
Well, interestingly enough, there's two particular previous members of Lodge number 322 based in Yale in America, which is quite often known as the Brotherhood of Death. So
Mm.
that kind of gives the game away a little bit. But these lodge members had a lodge name of Gog and Magog. And these two people were George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr. I'll see if that picture comes up. Yeah. So
Mm.
these both American presidents, members of a cult known as the Brotherhood of Death. There was actually three US presidents a member of that particular society. The other one was William Taft. William Taft's lodge name was Baal, as in Baal
You're
the.
joking.
No, I'm not joking. His lodge name was Baal. Gog and Magog were the two bushes. And of course, as it says there, they were the biblical names of the enemies who wage war against God at the end of the world. So I think that kind of, hey, does that paint a picture?
Do you know
But
what? It's right. So I used to attend. I'm going to call it a church, but it's not. It's a hall. The Jehovah's Witnesses, their version of a church is a hall, right? So it's effectively where they go to learn about the Bible and stuff like that. And they mention this quite a lot about Gog and Magog. And I asked them on several occasions. I said, well, biblically speaking, I said, not taking any of the modern references or modern standpoints out of the equation. Who are Gog and Magog? What specifically is it referring to? And they couldn't answer it. And again, that's not a dig at Jehovah's Witnesses either. And I've never been one, but I did used to attend their hall. I guess I was curious, and I did it respectfully. And they're lovely people in there, I guess. So it's not a dig at them. But anyway, I've been to a couple of churches since then. The one I went to before the one I go to at the minute, I asked them the preacher there. I asked him the same thing. I said, "Well, can you tell me a little bit about Gog and Magog?" And it's like, oh yeah, it's the two almost like antichrists. It's the two kings of the two kingdoms of the north and the kingdom of the south that are going to go to war, and it's going to. I'm like, yeah, but biblically speaking, who is it specifically referring to? Who is? I never got an answer to it, which is curious. And obviously, I know that you're bringing this into modern times, and we're looking at the Book of Revelation as a reference point, I suspect, between Bush and Bush, which is an interesting cross-reference there. But I don't know, the Bible's a funny. It's a funny piece of work, isn't it? It's just
too right, yeah.
stuff in there, but some of it is really, really cryptic. And that's one of the things that I never really got an answer to. Maybe one of the viewers can enlighten me, because I'm not saying there are no answers. I'm saying that I've never been presented with a good answer to this.
Well, answers on a postcard.
Yeah, it's just something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt there, mate.
Hey,
it's a curious
anytime,
one.
mate. I mean, this is what it's all about. But as you can see at the bottom there, I've also caveated this by saying world leaders do not deny themselves an occult education. And this is one of the big, and I'm sure you're probably the same, Nathan. This is one of the big sort of gripes I've got with the freedom community as a whole. You mentioned the word occult, and many of them will just either switch off, think you're a blinking, the Antichrist yourself, or they'll just think you're a lunatic, or to be honest, there's not many of them actually embrace it and actually realize that the thing that is hidden, i.e., that's what the occult means, hidden. The thing that is hidden is the answers and the solutions to creating peaceful coexistence on the shape of the planet. And this is what people are denying themselves, because they don't want to take accountability for a moral education by learning the things that are missing from their education, which is the occult.
Well, again, just we've put caveats and we've warnings and tried to give a little bit of explanation about the occult on numerous occasions. And I know that there's going to be people out there that are going to just see the word, just look at the word. I mean, we've been told by quite a few people actually, the word occult is going to trigger people, or it's triggered them specifically, right? And okay, I get that, but what are these people being triggered by really? Because it's, as far as I can tell, this is a word that churches don't like to use, right? I'm not having to go any specific church or any specific denomination or nothing like that, but especially with, let's say, certain organizations, religious organizations, they make a concerted effort to keep their flock, their congregation, away from the occult, right? And I've seen this in multiple churches. This is not, again, I'm not having to go one or another. I've been to a fair few at this point in time. And when I've called this out, so I've just said, well, why won't you learn about the occult? And I said, oh, it's evil. It's about black magic, and it's about devil worship, and it's about witchcraft, and it's about astrology and divine and divination and stuff like that. And I've said, well, no, it's not. Some of it is, yeah, absolutely, some of it is, but equally, the Bible itself has a lot of that in, and I can point it out to people. If I mean, I've got an entire presentation on this, which is fairly long. I mean, I think I did it in Gosforth with you, didn't
Oh
I,
yeah,
Drunken?
yeah.
And it's a big presentation. I mean, it goes into a hell of a lot of detail, but it's for some reason people are put off looking into this because they're told it's bad and it's evil by religious institutions. And yet all it means is hidden. So a lot of the stuff that we've presented tonight through and what we've talked about, some people might say, well, that's not the occult. Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is. It's just you've been entrained to think that the occult is something else. All we're doing is looking at a hidden layer or information that's been covered up or missed out or not put through the mainstream narrative. It's all it is information that has been veiled, right? It's been removed from view, which is what it means. And so I really think people need to not be triggered by this word anymore because it's not what people think it is. And I know, again, I've said this ad nauseum. I get a little bit,
Yeah.
it gets old after a while.
Well, to me, this is where belief is clouding their judgments because many people have got a preconceived idea that the occult is about evil. Yeah. And some of it is. I'm not denying that at all. But they think that's all it is.
Yeah, but let's. Sorry to interrupt. Right. So yeah, okay, it can be. But going back to your analogy about the brain and the tools and weapons and things like that, the occult is a tool. It's how you use it. It's the will and the intent behind it. It's not the subject itself. I mean, take the seasons, take processional cycles, take the number of take the numbers there that were just associated with the alchemical processes and metals, right? So the similarities there. That's not evil, is it? Is the periodic table evil? It's not. Are the seasons evil? No. Are the 365 days of the year evil? No. And yet these are some of the most occulted bits of information that we've come across. I mean, take the Book of Enoch, for example. I think there's 3 different versions. They've all got different parts to them. It was removed from the official canon of the Bible because it revealed too much occult information. It was too revealing. It was almost like, oh, you can't tell them that because they might click, you know. And so they took it out. They took the Book of Enoch out, or the books of Enoch. But then they've left Revelation in, and Revelation is just basically one massive occulted book. It's a massive esoteric, astrological, alchemical, call it what you want. There is so much symbolism in that book that is just to do with the occult. I mean, really, we could take that apart in one. It's gonna take a massive presentation, unfortunately, to dissect it. But I mean, that is just one massive occult reference book. And yet,
do you know what? Many,
sorry, go on, mate.
All right, many. I'm just going to say Bible bashers. Sorry if that triggers people. Many, let's just say,
probably.
I'm not knocking that, by the way. I bash the Bible. I mean, I'll read it. I've got shame in saying that.
I think 6 or 7 copies behind me. Yeah. So yeah,
it's one of our biggest occult sources of reference information. I'm not knocking it, but what I am saying is many people who will openly say that the occult is evil, and if you mention numbers in the multiple of 6, as in 666 or 66, they'll call that evil, but then they'll probably fail to understand or reject the fact that the Bible has got 66 books in it.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that declares it to be an evil source of information. Just saying for what it is, it's a number. Some people think it's evil. Well, what does that mean about the Bible? Just the point.
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget that the Bible's gone through edits, revisions, removals. I mean, how many books have been removed from the Christian canonized version of religion? So, I mean, as far as I understand it, the Catholic version of the Bible has more books than most of the other Christian denominations. So there is some apocryphal works for the Catholic religion, but then not for Protestantism and Methodism and Church of England and all this. So so why if it's a universal religion, why do we keep taking bits out and then putting bits back in? And why is it okay for one version of Christianity to have the books in, where another version of Christianity is like, no, that's apocryphal, we have to take it out? There are, just take, God, the Gnostic Gospels is one of them. And then there's the writings of the Essenes. There's other books of the Bible that weren't lost to history that have also been redacted and taken out and altered and modified. I mean, that should tell people something on its own, I think. But anyway, I don't want to take it into a whole
Yeah, I know. We could go off on massive tangents.
yeah,
For
sorry, mate.
instance,
Yeah.
I mean, we mentioned 66 books in the Bible. I'm pretty sure there's 27 books in the New Testament, which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, that number 27, for example, that might kind of trigger some people's understanding when you mention the likes of the 27 Club. But
Yeah, yeah.
27, I don't know if it's a coincidence, but 27 years is also the transit of Saturn. It's known as Saturn's return. Um, you know,
Interesting. All right.
yeah,
Okay. I didn't
Saturn's
know that.
return, 27 years. Which is why you could say,
Right.
well, why is there a 27 club? It's a particular time when Saturn comes back into to the fold and people feel kind of cold and depressed. I'm not saying
Mm.
that's what it is. But it's a strange coincidence. Um,
I'm sure Mark Devlin can tell you a hell of a lot about the 27 Club. I mean, that
oh
is
yeah,
that is
sure.
bizarre, and there's definitely something going on with that. But
Yeah,
anyway,
it's an
it's
interesting
just so
number.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but all of these things, even if there's nothing behind it, what it can do is it can kind of spark our curiosity, so we find out more and
Mm.
look deeper into the world and look deeper into the connections that make this world the way that it is. And I mean, one thing about the occult is it kind of, for me, it proves creation. Doesn't prove evolution, it proves creation. And
Mhm.
if people think the occult's evil because we are pretty much 100% clear on what this world is formulated upon, the divine existence of God, the creator. Well, I mean, I don't know why that is associated with evil. But I think what we need to do now is just look at this slide, because this is about
Yeah.
precision education. And this, for me, is one of the important things that anybody, whether you're a truther or not, if you can go down a route of precision education, you're going to learn more about a particular subject. So an occult level understanding of objective morality and natural law is what I'm talking about here in terms of precision education, because this can be thought of as essential data and focused information to create a tailored learning experience for individuals, promoting efficiency and better outcomes by delivering the right educational intervention at the right time. This adaptive system is geared to meet with the urgency of the situation by reinforcing important concepts and filtering out non-essential material that serves as distractions. So this probably sounds a little bit colorful and fanciful, but what I'm saying here is more people, if we want freedom, if we truly want freedom to develop and we want peaceful coexistence, then we need to focus our understanding on information that's actually going to generate that. And that is things, the occult level understanding on natural law. Nathan, what do you think?
I would say it was I would say it was essential to implement this kind of stuff. This is what we've been advocating for is to refine your thought. I mean, the trivium falls under this banner, or rather, this falls under the banner of trivium, which is
Mhm.
you know good input, good processing, good output, or right information, right thinking, right output. However you want to look at that, it just falls in line with this.
Yeah.
If we get, essentially what we're talking about is filtering the nonsense, right? If I use another biblical analogy, it's separating the wheat from the chaff.
Mhm.
It's taking a subject and saying, right, well, we want the good stuff. We want the good grains, right? And so we're going to filter everything else out. That essentially is how I would read out that,
Yeah.
and I
Well, do
would
you
say
know?
it was absolutely essential, Nate, at the minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as an example, I mentioned JFK earlier. Now, I find that whole period, that whole incident, massively interesting. That and the amount of occult numbers and occult themes and motifs in that one episode alone is just outrageous.
just a
But
bit.
the world is never going to change just because I know that, there was potentially the three Masonic assassins shot a person in in line with the death of a king Masonic ritual on a triple underpass,
Yeah.
and all the rest of it. That's never going to change the world, and freedom and peaceful coexistence never going to be created just because we find out the name of the real gunman on the grassy knoll. It's never going to change. What will change, however, is when more people have got a better perception and understanding of objective morality and natural law, period. So that's kind of what I'm hoping that viewers and
Mm-hmm.
from this will take from that. We need to know this occult level understanding.
Again, yeah, absolutely essential. But just to add a little bit to that,
Mm.
if anyone is interested in the whole JFK thing, a couple of people come to mind. If anyone is wanting to look at authors that have just gone into this in depth, there's two. There's David Icke has gone into it. Obviously, he's gone into this massively. But I would say the guy who went into this in the most detail and the most almost as a specialization, I guess, was a guy called Jim Mars.
Mm.
He passed away a couple of years ago,
Mm.
unfortunately, but he was really, really intelligent guy, knew his stuff, knew what was going on in the world, prolific author, and
Mm.
he wrote some absolutely brilliant books. I mean, I've got three behind me. He wrote one on the Illuminati as well, of all things. But he does go into a lot of depth about the whole JFK thing, looking at all possible implications, scenarios, people, all of that. So for anyone who just wants to dig into that specifically, have a look at Jim Mars. You can still get his books available on Amazon. In fact, I think I got a few of mine just from like high street bookshops.
All right,
Oddly
yeah,
enough, I don't know whether you
yeah.
still can these days because of
Mm.
the censorship that's coming
Mm.
in, but. Uh, I'm gonna leave it at that because again I don't want to deviate too much from your slides, but
Yeah,
he's
no
done some
worries.
really really good work on that. So
Yeah, yeah. Hats off to Jim Mars, great truther,
no, mate, he
great
was he was he
researcher.
was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. So we've established what we need as a precision education on occult level knowledge, but we also need to focus our minds upon obtaining a battle winning mentality. And I think this is
yeah,
something that we probably don't kind of appreciate enough. But let me describe it. A battle winning mentality is a mindset focused on achieving goals and overcoming challenges through unwavering self belief, persistence, and a proactive approach.
yeah,
Key components include taking ownership of learning in a stepwise progression, developing resilience to setbacks, maintaining focus and passion, taking accountability and cultivating a growth mindset by consistently striving for self improvement. And it can be considered to be a lifestyle of continuous effort and dedication. So I've also mentioned in the bottom there that the winner in war is the side that gives up second. So in other words, it's not who wins the war, it's who gives up first is kind of the you know
default loser.
yeah, yeah. So we want to be second loser basically. We need to apply more effort and passion than our enemy is. And at the moment, we are kind of, well, combat ineffective. And one of the reasons for this is basically, well, let's just call it a numbers game. There's more people siding with the lies and manipulators of this world than there are siding with the likes of you and I, who are just average Joes trying to give people a free understanding on the way the world's shaping up and how we can improve it. And I'm speaking as a professional soldier, nearly 3 decades in the military. And again, I'm not advocating for the military at all.
No,
I
but
actually,
again, just to reiterate my points from previous conversations with you, mate, I think it served you well because you're bringing that information to the wider world. Again, you're not divulging state secrets. That's fine. I don't think anyone could accuse you of that. What you are doing is educating people on the information that you can bring forward, that you can divulge, and it's I mean, I'm going to use the word that I said for the previous slide, which is this is essential. People talk about solutions a lot, right? And we do need solutions now because it's time for action. And actually, there's no use taking action unless you've got a direction to go in. It's not. It's what's the point unless you know what you're doing and you know how to do it. Okay, here, right? This slide and the previous one, but this one specifically is one of the biggest solutions you can ever have, right? This right here is the way out. This is if you want to look at it from alchemical perspectives, like change within. If you want to look at it from shadow work perspectives, introversion, inspect yourself, make improvements to yourself, make improvements to your thought processes, make improvements to your mind, body, spirit, soul, all of it, your emotions, improve all of that, right, in line with one another. It's this whole spirituality thing. It seems to forget that it's a multi-dimensional process, and by that I don't mean fifth dimension, blah blah. What I mean is multi-dimensional is it's the physical, right? It's the body, it's the mental, your mind, it's the emotional, which you again, okay, so technically that's the brain, but it's to do with behaviors, right? And then it's spiritual as well. This is a spiritual war. This here, battle winning mentality. They teach soldiers this, they teach armies this, they teach military strategists this, right? They teach the CIA this kind of stuff, right? I would imagine other alphabet agencies and stuff like that. This is what they know, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
Exactly right. I'll tell you this. I mean, I can't say this for sure because I've never been in any other nation's army, but certainly the army I was with, we never, not one person I worked with had the desire to lose and become a statistic on the battlefield.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody was driven to be a winner. And if you want to be, if you want to survive the experience, and you want your side, your country, your team to come up on top, you don't think like a loser. You need to have that fixed focus, that passion to and desire to achieve and accomplish. I mean, I'm not advocating for the army at all. In fact, I want it abolished. But the mindset is correct. It's the battle winning mentality, and this is where all people in the truth movement, for example, need to be, because we need to focus ourselves to that level of dedication to come up trumps above and beyond the Satan worshipping deviants who are currently dictating our very lives and how our children are going to inherit a world that's corrupt and immoral.
Even sorry, I mean, again, well said, but even the graphics that you've put there at the top with a fixed mindset under lock and key. In other words, it's stagnant, it's solid, it's rigid, it's not going to learn, it's not going to improve. Or you can have a growth mindset, which is to look at new things, have new perspectives, create neural pathways, learn new information, challenge what you know, expand on what you know, change it. But this to me, it's all interlinked. The battle winning mentality, it's interlinked. It's not just about the mind. I don't think you can just say, right, well, I'll make this an intellectual pursuit and take it from that, because it's the same as with spirituality. For example, the new age will say, no, it's just a spiritual pursuit. I'm just going to learn about spiritual stuff that I can't actually provide any evidence or fact for,
Yeah,
but I'm going
yeah.
to believe in it. Therefore it's my okay. This is a fourth dimensional uh uh formula, if you want. This is mind, body, spirit, and emotion, right? But it take that, and anyway, you have to use them in conjunction with another. You improve your body, you'll improve, say, blood flow and oxygen to your mind. You can improve your mind, then you can improve your mental health, right? So that affects your emotions. If you can change your emotions because of the positive effect of changing your mind and body, you can then change your behaviors, which you can then look at things more critically, look at things more openly, look at things more with more discernment, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that you combine all of that, all of those three elements, I think your spirit will take care of the rest,
Mm-hmm.
because your
That's
spirit is
great.
what drives it all. The spirit is the fire in the middle, right? It's the pyramid, the pyramid, right? It's the pyre in the middle. It's what drives us all, right? So this is what it's about. Is there any chance because I genuinely think that this is you want solutions. This is one of them. This is, I mean, it's a big part of it. Could you, not to be pedantic, but could you read that again just for the audience, just because I think this needs emphasizing massively, and it's really well worded, and your research here is brilliant.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, of course, I'll do that. Do that now. So, a battle winning mentality is a mindset focused on achieving goals and overcoming challenges through unwavering self belief, persistence, and a proactive approach. Key components include taking ownership of learning in a stepwise progression, developing resilience to setbacks, maintaining focus and passion, taking accountability, and cultivating a growth mindset by consistently striving for self-improvement.
Yeah,
It can be considered to be a lifestyle of continuous effort and dedication.
just that, and which means it doesn't stop. When a lot of people think that they've got the answers about, let's say, the health emergency is the example, right? Oh, well, we know it's a fake, or we know it's narrative driven, or we know that there's propaganda behind it, whatever. Therefore, I know how the rest of it works. So I'll just stop there. No, you don't. That's not how that works. It's not even close, right? You've got to take that and then move into all of the fields of information, as many as you can do. This is a multifaceted. Again, I've got to call it multidimension. It's probably not the word I'm looking for, but you don't just get to a point and stop. You've got to keep going. And sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's depressing, sometimes you just get exhausted with it. I have, you have.
Yeah.
I've had, in fact, I do. I get in cycles sometimes. I take that much information in, and I try and do this from all four angles. I do weights to improve my body. That then improves my mind, my emotions, my behaviors, which I'd like to think makes me a little bit more spiritual. Makes me a bit more understanding. Makes me a bit more skillful and adaptable, and all of these things in one. And it's not a case of, oh right, well I've reached my goal now, so I'll just stop there. That's not what it's about. There's always more to learn, more to improve, and this is the battle winning mentality.
Yeah.
You don't just win one battle and say I've won the war, right? As a soldier, you won the battle. So where's the next key strategic stronghold that you need to take? Where's the next resource that you need to capture? It right? Oh, again, I've never been in the military, so I don't know as much as you do on this front. What I do know is this is as philosophical and psychological and as spiritual as it gets, and yet they're teaching this in the military.
Mm.
It's brilliant.
Well, do you
It's
know,
brilliant.
you mentioned the military, and obviously I was in the military for a long time. And, I think that there definitely is useful things that certainly my background, my military background can be of benefit to shaping the world for the side of good, for the truth movement, for the truthers out there. One thing I will say, I mean, I'm quite critical at times. I will use the term combat ineffective simply because this battle win mentality has not been established in sufficient depth yet. And as I've caveated, the winner in war is basically just determined by the side that gives up first. So if we're giving up first, and I'll be quite honest, in a lot of respects we have, then that means that the bad guys are going to be the winners because we've conceded to their victorious position. But one thing I will say is I've been in that mindset. I understand the mindset of the people, the bad guys who are in the winning position at this moment, organized, well equipped, because they've got everything in place. They plan to the plan to minutia. They are well developed in their understanding, and they're very, very well determined. So all of these things, all of these battle winning mindsets, the criteria of battle winning mindset is exactly what our enemy have had established for hundreds, if not thousands of years. We need to be of a similar mindset, and we need to. I'm not saying get rid of all the fluffy right-brained
Mm-hmm.
love and light spirituality stuff. The love and light
It's got a part to
thinking.
play. It does have a part to play,
Yeah,
but it's got to be grounded, and whereas the mechanical heavy stuff from the left brain, that's got to be lifted, right? But
yeah,
so if you've got to lift one and ground the other, what we're saying is there's a balance to be struck between the two. That's what we're going for here.
yeah,
We're not saying the left is bad, the right is good, or the right is good. No, we're not saying that. We're saying that there's a balance to be struck between
exactly.
both of them have a part to play. Both of them are essential. It's not about one or the other. It's about both, right?
Exactly. I mean, the secret societies, for the benefit of the listening audience, if they're not aware, the secret societies will teach the middle pillar. The middle pillar is basically having the best of both worlds, the love and light and the organization and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Left brain, right brain. This needs to be balanced, and we need to have that in essentially equal parts. That's where, and a lot of people are sadly are at the position where they think if we just dream the love and light, the moonbeams with butterflies and unicorns will come down, and everybody will, the whole world will change just on a whim and a notion. And this is just erroneous fairy tale punk. And it needs to be said. This needs to be. We need that mentality,
Mm-hmm.
balanced and established. But I'll click on the next slide, mate.
But
Otherwise,
yeah,
I'll end
but
up waffling.
just again, just to say that last one was absolutely brilliant. In fact, I want that one in the next book if we can,
All right,
because
thanks, mate.
it's
Appreciate that.
brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway, we've talked about consciousness. Well, what is consciousness? So we're going to have a little look at that next. And again, I'll just read this out as it says on the slide there. So consciousness can be considered by qualities such as subjectivity, which is essentially perceptions within the mind, self-awareness, which is the capacity to recognize certain characteristics, um, sentience, which is the ability to experience emotions, and sapience, and this is the ability to apply knowledge, which is gained through either experience or understanding, and also the relationship between oneself and the environment. So there's quite a few complex dynamics involved in consciousness, but I'm sure there's probably other statements and sentiments you could say about consciousness, but what we can say in a kind of a coverall term is it is the state of being aware,
Yeah.
aware of, and responsive to one's surroundings. That's what consciousness is. But again, another caveat then in the capital letters, if we only have half the picture, we can never be fully aware and fully responsive to any of the challenges put in our way. So when I say half the picture, for example, if we choose to ignore hidden information, such as objective morality and natural law, because we think it's irrelevant, then that's only half the picture, and then we're only half as conscious. So I've already said at the start of this presentation that we need to be more involved in consciousness. That means having
Yeah.
the full picture.
You remember, so the most recent episode, oh, it could have been a couple of episodes back of our Fake Awake podcast, whereas I was using the analogy of the one-eyed man being the king in the land of the blind.
Mm.
I'm not gonna do the eye signals again because I'll get accused of all sorts, but I did it deliberately to point something out, which is that if your eyes correspond to the opposite brain segment, which is why I did that. But the
Mm.
point was, if you're only using half your brain, then that means you've only got one eye open, effectively, right? Which means you are blind, right? So in the land of the blind, because you're only seeing half the picture, so you're blinded to the other half, which means you're not getting a full perception, you're not getting a realistic outlook, you're not getting a realistic understanding. You are blinding yourself because it's a choice. It's if you fall into an extreme part of your brain, left or right, it doesn't matter. If you fall into extremism, you're falling to blindness, right? So whether that's rigidity, naivety, or any of these extremes, then the one-eyed man is king in the land of the blind because you've allowed your brain to dominate you from a position of ignorance, right? That's the point of that was to hopefully demonstrate that point. And a lot of, as you've just said here, right? So consciousness. I mean, one of the things you've got self-awareness, but also awareness of others, right? Awareness of yourself in and being symbiotic with your environment. It's not one or the other. If we look at the 7 Hermetic principles, I'm gonna say as above, so below. So we've got what's the word for this one? I forgot the bloody word.
What the Hermetic principle?
Yeah, there's a word that comes.
Correspondence.
Correspondence. Yeah, that which is above corresponds to that which is below, and that which is within corresponds to that which is without, right? So the law of correspondence is this. So when we're talking about the law of correspondence, what better way to sum up consciousness than to use that as the example? Which is, you have to be conscious. You've got to be conscious in here, and you've got to be conscious of out there, right? That's full consciousness. That's another way of saying there's the balance. It's the left and the right. It's the above and the below. It's the in and the out. It's the human and the environment, right? All of this, mate. This is a brilliant bloody presentation. I think this is invaluable. I mean, really, really is. I think you've put this on the Occult Academy Telegram group, haven't you? You've posted this a couple of times.
I've definitely used some of the slides. I'm pretty sure I have, mate. Yeah.
So there was something similar to this, and when I read it, and it was a couple of months back, and I thought, right, because I was on a coach at a time, so I couldn't do much with it. But anyway, I got back home and I thought, right, I'm going to go back into that, and I'm going to copy the whole segment, and I've got it in a Word document on there, and I'm like, right, Steve. No offense, mate. I'm plagiarizing you. Yeah, that's going in our next book. That's. I mean, I'll give you the credit for it because you wrote it, and obviously it'll go. You know, it's
Hey,
going to be
mate,
credited to you.
plagiarize away. I mean, again, anybody watching this is freely available. Take it away. Take photographs. Share it with your mates. Sell books on it. I don't care. This is all information that people need
Yeah,
to
pretty
know.
much. Yeah.
You
Just
know.
it is brilliant. You know, people want solutions, and it's again, it is about the shadow work. It is. I would say that was a very spiritual thing to do. Actually, the shadow work. I think it's
Yeah.
the most spiritual thing you can do because you that is looking at the other side. That is looking at the darker side,
Mm-hmm.
and going into it and fixing it and improving it. And it's constant. It's being persistent, persevering, and having patience and having focus and dedication. It's all the things that you mentioned in the last slide, which is an improvement of your consciousness, which then takes you further up the scale of consciousness. I can't remember
Yeah.
who it
Well,
was named after, but there
yeah,
is this,
I forget. Yeah, I
yeah,
know what you mean though. I mean,
but
go on. I'll let you
no,
speak,
no,
mate.
no, it's just that
All right.
it's
Yeah.
exactly that.
Well, do you know? I was just going to say that if people want proof of concept, I mean, this is something we used in the military a fair bit. You know rehearsal of concept. In order to prove that a certain thing would work, we would check it out either on paper or would do a tactical
Mm,
exercise to make sure that this worked in principle. I am the living embodiment of how natural law in the evolution of consciousness can work. And I'm just going to be very blunt on this. I'm going to use the term murderer because as that's what a soul dead individual does when you send soldiers, soul dead, off to war. That's what they do. They kill other people. So I was paid to do that. I don't do that anymore because I evolved in consciousness by having a moral education. So I that's not going to change the world. Just one person deciding to refuse to soldier, hand his gun back into the armories and walk away with his ditch his kit and hand the key to his locker. That's not going to change the world. But imagine if a million people came to my understanding. And I'm just a regular Joe from the Northeast. I'm not an academic. I'm not a religious scholar. I'm you know I'm just an average guy with an average education, but I had a moral education. Turned things over in my head and developed
mm,
a conscience, and that conscience was enough to allow me to realize that, hey, I'm on the wrong side here because I'm doing the wrong thing, not for my country, not for the guys I work with, but for humanity. And this is the important thing, to realize that there is objective truth in the universe, and we have got the capacity to break the laws of nature. We can break it as much as we want, but the result of this ends up in chaos and disorder and
mm.
violence, tyranny. And if we want that as an outcome, and if we want that for our kids, we'll crack on. keep sending you know, keep keep funding the armies, keep voting for government, keep this system, this peace system in place, or do something about it to change it. And it starts with individuals. And as I said, I'm not changing the world by the decisions I've made, but if other people join me with this kind of understanding by developing an understanding to generate this, the actions you then take as a result, this is how the world has changed. This is
Yeah.
how freedom is developed. But shall we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I've got nothing to answer that because I'm genuinely really impressed with it and happy with it on
All
here.
right,
So that's
nice one.
if
Hey,
people
well,
can take that and apply it, brilliant.
I guess what we're coming across here is consciousness, and what I'm saying is a deeper level of awakening is, as I've had, is having deeper knowledge of the self. And that doesn't, by
Yes.
the way, this doesn't make me I'm now a genius. I'm now look how awesome he is. I was already awesome. No, I'm only joking. Um, this this is applicable to everyone. Everyone can have a deeper awakening. That does I haven't stopped awakening. I've not just reached
Right.
a level. I'm saying I've improved my level of awakening and awareness, but that doesn't mean I'm now, have
Awake.
reached the stage of godhood. There's
Mate,
plenty of room for
can I
improvement.
interrupt again? Sorry, sorry, I really feel bad for interrupting, but again, this is why I've got a problem with the word awake.
Mm,
Right. So in the book, I've stipulated that I don't think that anybody is fully awake. All right. There
mm,
are different stages of an awakening, right?
mm,
If done right, you can have a really advanced level of awakening. But so for those who are genuinely enlightened, they know that they're not at the end. They know that they're not fully realized. I know there's a thing that goes around in New Age groups and circles that, oh, I'm a fully realized individual. No, you're not. Because if you were, you'd be God. And you're not God because you're still here with us. Right. And I'm not saying it's not
mm.
attainable because from that perspective, we are all part of that greater collective of godness or the divine, whatever you want to call it. But whilst you're still here in this form, it means you've still got shit to learn. You've still got stuff to do. It's still an experience for you to take home. There is no such thing as I am awake. The end. That's not
Yeah,
a thing. It's not a thing. And if part of the point that I was trying to make in the book, the whole idea of fake awake is that if the ones who think that that's the case, that they've done a little bit of research, they've done 2 years of having their perceptions improved or in massively increased or something like that, and suddenly, oh well, I'm awake now. No, you're not. Unfortunately, you've stopped. You started, but you stopped. Because the moment where you come out with that and the moment where you start bickering with other groups about it and you've fallen for psyops and you're not even willing to accept that you've fallen for psyops, the moment that
mm,
you're splitting, the moment that you're no longer thinking critically, the moment that your mind's no longer open to new learning, that's the
yeah,
moment you stopped being awake, right? That's the whole point of it. Is if you think that being awake is an end point at 36-year-old, for example, no, go back and do it again. And I've said this in the book, and I know it's a bit contentious. If that's where you're at, you've missed the point. You've missed your target. You think you've hit it, but you've overshot it. Now you've got to realize you've overshot it. It's Dunning-Kruger effect in a way, isn't it?
yeah, of course, yeah,
It's overconfidence and the ability that of again, maybe not in academic sense, but it's the Dunning-Kruger effect for spiritual enlightenment, if you
yeah,
like. For that, it's like you're not awake if you think that you're awake. Go back and do it again. Go
yeah.
back and have that realization that you've missed the mark, you've missed the target. You've got to go back. Anyway, sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to
No,
chip that in
no
there
worries,
because
man.
it's appropriate to that. Anyway,
Yeah,
right.
I
Yeah.
mean, the Dunning-Kruger effect is definitely something that people need to look at more. And again, I think that's
Yeah.
something we should cover in future episodes. But
Well, just
move it.
again, I was
Uh,
just going to say we are definitely. I'm putting a presentation together for that, but it's massive.
yeah, yeah.
There's no way, mate, that we can cover cognitive biases, mind traps, all of that.
It's
Uh,
it's a
it's a
huge subject, isn't it?
massive. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's gonna be in a few parts. I'd like, ideally, to bring a member of the Occult Academy Telegram group into that at some point as well. Maybe not to
yeah, yeah.
start with, but certainly to integrate into the conversation at a later point through
Brilliant.
maybe a
Yeah, I'm
couple
up
of
for that.
episodes in, definitely. Anyway,
Yeah.
right, I'm going to shut up so you can do your slide. But
No
there you
worries.
go.
I'll basically just read out what I've got here. So we've said that we need a deeper knowledge of the self. And anyway, the Oracle of Delphi, which is or Delphi, which is kind of what this image represents. This was an ancient shrine in ancient Greece where a priestess known as the Pythia delivered prophecies from the god Apollo. And here's one of them. Heed these words, you who wish to probe the depth of nature. If you do not find within yourself that which you seek, neither will you find it outside. In you is hidden the treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods. And this kind of touches upon what you mentioned on the last slide, which was about the Hermetic law of correspondence, as above, so below. And again, I don't know where people's understanding sat, and I'm not here to insult that, but I think the deeper your consciousness takes you into the acceptance of, I'm just going to say, occult level information, this leads and generates the understanding that everything is one. The universe is just a representation of you, and you are a representation of the universe. As above, so below. Just as it says here, if we've got trauma and turmoil and chaos and disorder generated in our own minds because we're living on half truths and we're developing, crazy beliefs and erroneous notions inside our heads, so the universe will manifest that same, kind of conditions. So our conditions need to be based on truth and principle, through logic and reason, and generating a sovereign state within ourselves. When we're sovereign inside and autonomous in our understanding, then there's better chance of that being actioned out into the world, because our behaviors, our internal status, our internal knowledge and understanding generates the wisdom and action that is required to change the nature of the world. So that's kind of what that means in a nutshell.
You know how many occult references you've got in that slide? I mean, it seems quite simple, but
Yeah.
there's a load in there, right? So you mentioned the Oracle of Delphi, right? So for anybody who's not familiar with that, there was a young woman that would be pure and chosen that could basically interpret the will of the gods, and she was put over a tripod. She was put in a tripod in the Oracle of Delphi, which was suspended over, I think it was volcanic fumes or some kind of sulfur or something coming from the ground. Anyway, so she was getting off on all kinds of weird chemicals, and so it's going to have an effect on the brain. I suspect putting her in a psychedelic state, and then the mutterings that she would come out. She would, people would pay to ask the oracle a question, and then she'd come out with these prophecies. Of which that's about one of the most occulted things I've ever seen. But the word there, you mentioned Pythia, which is associated with a python, which is obviously python is a snake, and snakes are associated with enlightenment. Now, this is one that might trigger Christians. In the Gnostic version of Christianity, the symbol that Jesus was associated with was that of a serpent. Well, obviously, a serpent is a snake. And in the Bible, where do we hear about snakes? Well,
the
Garden of Eden, no less, right? And so people say, oh, the serpent in the garden was the devil, it's Satan, it's Lucifer. No, the serpent in the garden was a serpent in the garden, right? A talking serpent, but it's what it signified. It was the symbolic aspect of the serpent that people seem to miss, which is it's a symbol of enlightenment, which is linked to something else that we've got here, which is the god Apollo. Well, the god Apollo is a sun god. Well, what greater symbol of enlightenment than the big glowing light in the sky that sheds light and everything and brings warmth and life and light and all that, right? So, I mean, just look at that. Now, Jesus, in many cases, was an allegory of the sun. the demiurge, depending on which tradition you go. I'm not about the Gnostic demiurge necessarily,
Mm,
but there is a demiurgus, which comes from it's the same root
mm,
meaning, but it comes from two different traditions. I think in terms of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, their version of the demiurge or the demiurgus was the sun. It was the god. It was the life bringing and light. It was God. It was Apollo basically, or
mm,
any other name you want to give to the sun god. There's so many to choose from. Um, there's so much in that, and then there's the whole know thyself and you will know the universe and the gods. And well, what is that? That's the shadow work. It's know thyself. It's one of the first precepts of the occult teachings,
yeah.
of the mystery schools. And that just goes back to the shadow work, which is to look internally. It's
Mm,
introspection, right? It's understand yourself, know how you tick, and then your secrets will be revealed. If you want to take it further, we're looking at alchemy and the philosopher's stone. Well, the philosopher's stone has been equated by John Dee, and I forgot the other bloody philosopher. It'll come to me.
Bacon.
Descartes. I think it was Descartes.
Oh,
Rene Descartes.
okay, right,
I
okay,
think I might be wrong.
right.
That's yeah. But the philosopher's stone is basically associated with the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. So it's the two glands in the center of the brain. So one produces the melatonin for the nighttime, and the other one produces the serotonin for the day, right? And so they
Mm,
work in conjunction, which is why you get your circadian rhythms. You've got this. This is a balance. This is the light and the dark. This is the darkness. The night and the day.
yeah.
And so again, without repeating myself too much, this is the internal. This is as as above, so below, as within, so without. So it's reflective of the sun and the moon within. You've mentioned many times in your your podcasts, in your presentations, in your public speeches, Solomon, right? The Temple of Solomon, Sol, On, right? Which is three different ways of saying the sun within the temple, between the two pillars, the left and the right pillar. I mean, just that slide. I don't know whether you've done it deliberately as to encompass all of that, but it encompasses all of that, and it's really really quite genius actually the way you've done that.
I think the way you're talking and the kind of way you're describing things as well is kind of you're establishing the knowledge of the gods because you
Yeah,
know thyself, and
yeah,
then this internal sense of understanding becomes a lot more established and fluent, and then it's almost like it's like that light bulb moment. It's oh, I totally get this. I mean, even the fact that the Pythia was established on a tripod. I
yeah,
mean, is that not reflective of the
yeah,
trivium? Thoughts, emotions, actions,
yeah,
logic, understanding, and wisdom.
yeah,
Like like the Holy Trinity, like Trinity in the Matrix, who helped Neo, as in terms of the neocortex, which is
yeah.
the higher mind, by developing the skills and passion and battle winning mindset that was required.
Well, look at the work. Oh, God, hang on, go back.
Oh,
One more. I swear it's relevant.
yeah.
It's appropriate. Right. So when God, this is going to blow people's minds. Actually, if I do this right, it's going to blow people's minds. When Neo goes to see the Oracle, right? Um, above her door, above the kitchen door, is it above the door of the kitchen
All right.
before he goes in to see it, right? It's got Temet Noske. Or I don't know if I'm saying it right. It's
Right.
Greek for know thyself, right? And 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 obviously he's going in there, and what does she say? That she's just, I mean, the Matrix, mate. We need to break that one down, because
Oh, yeah,
every time I watch that, there's more and more and more comes
yeah.
out. I'm like, wow, how the hell
It's
did I miss that?
it's just nuts, isn't it?
Oh, it's layer upon layer upon layer of
Yeah.
esoteric stuff in there. My God, the all three. People say, oh, the first one's the best. You don't need to watch the second two. No, you got to watch them all together all the time, because it's one giant esoteric lesson. It's like part one, part two, part three. It's just three stages of consciousness. It's the Holy Trinity in there. I mean, again, they literally call it Trinity, right?
Yeah.
She is the feminine. She's the feminine aspect that balances. She's the bridge
Yeah.
between neocortex, the one. If you
Yeah,
rearrange the words, you've got the one
the
eye.
one. Yeah, yeah,
I've got, my God, right. I'm going to shut up, but just that bit as well
yeah,
all
exactly.
falls into line with the Matrix. I think the Wachowskis might have known a thing or two. What do you reckon?
It was divine inspiration. I mean, the fact that Neo was the one. I mean, the one, he'd established non-duality. You know, he'd
Yeah,
oneness. But
yeah.
it's never ending. The likes of the Matrix. And to be fair, there's quite a few other films which, even The Simpsons. You know, it's like
Yeah.
how on earth? It's just genius.
It's The
Um,
Simpsons. I mean, I mean, that's just a parody of life at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But especially now that you're saying South Park's got the latest Ice episode in, I'm gonna have to check that out. But we can go
Mate,
down rabbit holes forever here, can't
oh,
we?
I know. Sorry, we're diverting, but again, I think it's all appropriate actually. So I'm not
Mm,
I'm not necessarily too apologetic on this occasion because I think
mm,
it all links into the occult and the esoteric, which is what this is all about anyway.
yeah,
But it just South Park, for anyone who's not familiar with South Park, I know people don't like it out there, but my God, the stuff that they have covered, and then you see it happen, and you're like, whoa, okay, that's unreal. It's
mm,
almost like The Simpsons, but funnier and
yeah,
less.
yeah. It's
I don't like
class.
The Simpsons. I mean, I've watched them all, but I don't really like it. Whereas South Park, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
right,
We'll have to check it out.
yeah,
We're
please do.
up to polar energies here. So, I mean, I think we touched upon this fairly recently when we talked about the middle pillar and balancing the left and the right brains, the two pillars, the male and the female. So that's what we're looking at here. Two sides of the brain, the male hemisphere and the female hemisphere. So let's start with the male hemisphere. Going down the list, it's indicative of solar energy, a masculine principle which is dominant. It's also analytical. Um, it's the left side of the brain, and it incorporates and it kind of embodies what's known as the self-defense principle. So there's two sort of important principles in the universe that we need to take note of. The self-defense principle. Now, this kind of relates as well to, let's just say, if we were attacked in the streets by a violent thug, is it correct? Would it be morally correct of us to be able to defend ourselves? Or should we just sit back, accept our beating, or
Yeah.
if it's worse than that, should we just accept it because it would be morally wrong to fight back and protect yourself? I'm pretty sure, unless, I might be typecasting a bit, unless you're a complete maniac, no, everyone would agree that it's completely right and expecting to be able to defend oneself against a violent attack by a thug. What I am going to say at this juncture is if that violent thug who is intending harm and committing harm upon you happens to have a Mickey Mouse badge with ICE written on it, or the police written on it, and he happens to have a little certificate signed by Donald Trump or some other like an Epstein friend of Epstein, does that
Mm.
vilify that person to be able to commit his violent attack, which might be deadly, without any form of self protection?
Mm.
I mean, I know where my,
I
you know,
know.
where I lay my hat in that subject.
Yeah,
But anyway, I'm going to cover
yeah.
the next side, which is the female hemisphere. So this incorporates what could be classed as lunar or moon energy. It's feminine quality, which is passive and intuitive. It's the right side of the brain, and this embodies rather the non-aggression principle. So these are two principles that are tantamount to natural law, and if we understand them and kind of use these in our understanding and our reasoning, and then we apply the actions on these two principles, then this is how peaceful cooperation, peaceful coexistence occurs in the world. Right, non-aggression, that means you do nobody any harm. Don't do harm to people. Non-aggression. On the other hand, we need to balance that off. If somebody does mean you harm, tries to hurt you, then you have the right to self-defense. So these two principles, non-aggression, self-defense, is what the two pillars of Freemasonry and many other sort of motifs in secret societies and occult platforms will kind of relate to.
I think they'll confirm it, clarify it. It's all there. Can I add a few bits to this
Of
one as
course,
well?
mate. Yeah, go for it.
So I mean, okay, so the picture of the brain that you've got in there, you've got your blue and red. So we've talked about polarizing dialectics, which is what happens when you pit one of these extremes against another. So if either of these, the male or the female hemisphere is in an extreme form of itself, and is unbalanced, let's say, that's when you have the polarizing dialectics, right? So these are polar opposites at that point, and this is where you can weaponize it for one to fight the other, and then one to fight the other. The what was I going to say about self-defense and non-aggression? So if you think about it, if you put that together, then you've got sovereignty, haven't you? Right? But if you keep it separate, you've got master and slave, right? So as you separate the non-aggression, I'm not going to attack. With the self-defense, I'm going to defend myself. But again, take these to the extremes. You've got one is you could say that the non-aggression principle taken to its extreme is I'm going to stand down. I'm going to be passive. I'm going to be open to abuse. I'm not going to defend myself. I'm not going to attack. I'm not right. So it's that in its extreme version. And then in the left, we've got the self-defense principle, which if you take that to the extreme, you've got bullying, tyranny, dominate, like a domineering energy. It becomes overly aggressive as opposed to assertive, for example, right? That's when it becomes an aggressive and attacking form. But if you can balance these two hemispheres, the red and the blue, again the two pillars of Freemasonry, you got the female, which is the pillar of mercy, and then you got the male, the pillar of severity, right? So on the tree of life, on the Kabbalistic tree of life, you've got your three pillars. The third pillar is it's kind of like a hidden pillar, but it's not really. It's the
Yeah,
balance. It's the one that we don't see if we're out of line,
yeah.
right? So you've got the left and the right, severity and mercy. That's your male and your female. And you can go down the left path, or you can go down the right path. But the idea is you're supposed to jump between the two and climb it in multiple different ways. But the ideal is to go straight through the middle path, which is balance, which is unifying the two hemispheres. The Star of David, and that's going to trigger
Yeah,
people. But
yeah,
the Star of David is about this, right? There's
yeah.
multiple ways you can take the hexagram, and you can say, "Oh, it's evil." No, it's not. There's multiple ways that you can look into it. Just because it can be used to represent evil in certain cases doesn't mean it's evil, right? It's telling you something, and it's actually this. It's the unification of the male, which if we take the hemisphere or the analogy that we use in here, which is the upwards pointing triangle, which is the blade, and that it's unified with the female, which is the chalice, right? So it's a downward facing triangle.
Yeah.
You bring the two together and you balance them out, and guess what? Then you put a circle to unify it, and then what's basically you're solidifying that, aren't you? It's
Yeah.
like you unify it and then you're protecting it. It's like a ring of protection. It's like, right, now I've got a balance. Now I understand. And so there's a negative aspect to the 666, but equally there's a positive aspect to the 666. You've got the hexagram, the hexagon, and then the six triangles within the same symbol, which is representative of the union of opposites. As in the two polar opposites. You've got the male and the female. It's the coming together of that. It's a sacred union. This can be applied physically, mentally, emotionally. I don't know whether physically or spiritually. I can't remember what I bloody said now.
Yeah.
But it is that. It's the union of opposites. The lesson to be learned here is to balance everything. To let go of extremes. And again, I'm going to reiterate what I said in the previous podcast, which is if you fall into one extreme or another, you are an extremist. That's the definition of it. And if you're going to act like an extremist, then there's going to be an opposition to that, usually from the opposite extreme. And you've got a battle. And so,
do you know what? Just to touch upon that, the Star of David, for example, the 6-pointed star. I mean, that in itself is kind of indicative of the fact that we have five senses, and if we overcome the five sense illusion, the the things that keep us grounded to the material world, well, that sixth part, the sixth sense, if you like,
Yeah.
is the point towards the spirit that we kind of really need to be able to navigate this um
Realm.
yeah, this realm. And this realm is not just physical, it's also spiritual. So the spiritual world isn't external to the physical world, it's combined, it's both. It's just
Yeah.
when we're grounded with the five senses, the materialistic things that keep us occupied in this physical world, we forget the sixth side to that, the
Yeah.
spiritual realm, and this is in conjunction. So as above, so below. It's actually
Yeah.
simultaneous. So this is why that the higher realms of consciousness is required. And I'll tell you another little interesting kind of anecdote to this. The two sides of the brain is joined together by, I believe it's, and again, don't either correct me in chat or in the comments or whatever, but I believe it's called the corpus callosum,
Yeah.
or words to that effect.
Corpus callosum. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the
thank you.
fusion of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is where the middle pillar is. The middle pillar
Yeah.
is kind of the fusion of the male and female hemispheres. Now, I find it quite curious and interesting the fact that this word begins with the letter C. So two letter C's. And of course, if we're to expand or elaborate upon that,
Yeah. Yeah.
with the
Actually, do the etymology of these two words, because
yeah.
that just on its own is brilliant. Yeah, go for it.
Well, if we just transliterate that into numbers, so C is the number 33, and of
Yeah.
course this is indicative of enlightenment. This number, this the age Jesus died on the cross, the number of bones in the spine, the highest degree of Freemasonry. This number is massively important. It's the master teacher, and when we invoke the master teacher, we've learned the lesson that this life is designed to show us, essentially the union of the physical and the spiritual planes. Shall we move on?
Well, just can I
Yeah.
dig into the? I mean, look at the word corpus callosum. So corpus, corpse, body,
Mm.
and colossum, colossus. I mean, you could take that to mean large, big,
Yeah.
like large body. Um, but then you've got, I would say you've got links to Colosseum.
Mm.
Oh, there was another one that were related to temple, and I've completely bloody forgot it. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm going to leave it there because I'm going to bugger that one up because I've lost it. But if you take that and you fuse it together, it's the greater body, isn't it? So it's no longer the left and the right. It's no longer the small parts isolated and disunified. It is the greater body, which is why we get the greater work, which is the Magnus Opum.
Mm.
Magnus. Oh God.
Magnus Opus.
Opum.
Opus.
Yeah. Opus.
Opus.
God. Opus. Magnum Opus. Oh bloody hell. I haven't even done the whiskey tonight, mate. I don't know what my excuse is. I'm forgetting stuff. But it's the great work, right? Which is the unification, which is the greater understanding. It's the greater work. It's all of that. I mean, again, I just all right. I'll take the yin yang at the bottom. It's a Taoist symbol. Anyone not familiar with the Taoist religion, it is actually probably, if I was going to have to choose a religion, if I had to choose a religion, it'd be Taoism because it's the most beautiful uh, analogy of life and death and spirit and balance and all of those things in one. And it's another example of, if you think you understand it, if you think you've got the full picture, you don't. So you've got to keep going, and it's constantly changing. It's constantly in motion, and it's the two It's the left and the right. It's the black and the black and the white. It's the day and the night. It's good and evil. It's all
Yeah.
of that in one. I'm going to stop prattling on in a minute. I promise you this is relevant. But if you look at that and overlay it on the brain, you've got the same thing. But what
Mm.
else is it doing? Within that symbol there, you've got the seven hermetic principles, and I won't break it down. But in that symbol, just on its own, the seven hermetic principles are there, and we'll take that another day in a different presentation. But
Mm.
it's really quite magical. So I mean, it just looks like a very simple icon, right?
Mm.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's emotion. It's got your feminine, your masculine. I'm going to leave it there, but it's there. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
You've done it again. Your presentations are fantastic.
Hey, it's don't blame me. I'm just describing the elements of the universe, which is, like I say, it defines creation. If anyone's got a problem with it, blame it on God. He built it.
Take it up with the boss.
Yeah. Right.
Brilliant.
Next slide.
Yeah.
We've kind of touched upon this a couple of times. Actually, probably I say a couple of times now. We've touched upon this 3 times because it's a law of three. And again, this is just my expression. The law of three. It's not necessarily the coverall definition for my explaining it, but consciousness can be expressed in 3 ways. We can go through thoughts, emotions, and actions. Right, I'm going to break that down just a little bit. First up is thoughts. So this is where everything is driven from. It has to start here first. I mean, you could say, well, if actions happen first, well, what drives your actions? Well, your emotions kind of are driven by your thoughts, which drive your actions. So anyway,
Yeah.
thoughts come first. This is you could describe this, notionally as the father or the male dynamic, which is what you think. The next part of this equation is emotions. So thoughts drive your emotions. Again, it pays to have emotions as well developed, because if you're emotionless, you're taking away an important element of this equation. But emotions can be thought of as female, or the mother dynamic, which is what you feel. And both of these principles drive actions or behaviors. This can be thought of as what the properties of the divine child. So if we think about one particular holy trinity, trinity in religion, which is let's just take the Christian narrative, which is Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. Jesus, of course, being the divine child. This is what you do in the world, and what we do is based upon thoughts, emotions. And another couple of things I put on this slide just as a way to think about how this dynamic works. Unity consciousness, unity being kind of one, all together, you could say. As you think, so you feel, so you act. Now, where this can go awry or break down is when we've got poor thoughts, or incorrect understanding. And if we've got an incorrect understanding because we ain't done any occult research, so we're operating in the world with half truths, with one eye shut, or we're ignoring it because our heads are full of beliefs of fairy tale notions and dogmatic understanding. Well, and if our emotions are driven by a lack of care or empathy or apathy or cowardice even, well, our actions, the way we behave in the world, are going to be impaired as a result. So if we want to change the quality or effectiveness of our actions, we first need to change the quality and effectiveness of our thoughts. So Nathan, I'll leave that with you if you've got any thing to add on that.
Yeah, I do, obviously.
Yeah.
But again, it's brilliant, and it's very demonstrative of what we're trying to do here. I'm going to defer back to the previous slide to keep this one on because it's relevant. But it's that notion of when the father and the mother unite, then you generate the child, right? So it's about generation, it's about creation, it's Genesis, literally to create, and that can only occur when the two come together. I mean, it's literally pretty obvious, but esoterically, from an occult perspective, this is what the Holy Trinity is, right? It's the Father above, unifying with the Mother to produce the offspring. So the Mother, if we look at Mary, the word Mary comes from mare, which means water in the Latin. I think it's got a Greek equivalent.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the Greek is, but it means water, right? So you got the air and the water. and then you've got your divine child. So there's so many things just in that alone. I mean, I think I've gone into that in my book a little. Well, say our book. Sorry, apologies. But with this specifically, I've tried to emphasize it to say, again, it's about balance, but there's another aspect to it. When you have the Catholic Church telling you Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and they try and make out as if the Holy Ghost is the Spirit of God, the male aspect, then that doesn't make sense to me because, now correct me if I'm wrong, but in order to create a child, you need a male and a female. And it's probably going to offend all kinds of people for that one if it goes to the wrong audience. But equally, it is that. It needs a male and a female. And together, when they come together, the union of opposites, and it's what's the word when it converges and it flows? What's the word? Like there's a word, I forget my bloody word. Basically, if it works, if it's a good union, if it fits effectively, then the product of that will be healthy. It will be it'll flow. It'll be the divine generation. It'll be divine creation. If it's a mismatch, if it's two extremes, or if then you're going to have a I've got to be careful how I say this. So, a mutant,
all right,
maybe,
okay.
or a mutation. Something that you cannot have something balanced that comes from two things that are imbalanced.
Yeah,
unless there's a lot of work put into it. But I'm right. That's all I want to add to that. Basically, is the law of three, the Trinity. This is as old as it gets in terms of religion, spirituality, and the occult.
yeah.
This goes all the way back to Egypt and Babylon. I mean, this really, really is ancient stuff. It's a basic principle. There's nothing evil about it. In fact, I would say this is an understanding of nature.
Yeah. Do you know what? Just on this alone, I mean, if we're to incorporate the kind of allegories from religion, from various religion and mythology into this, and the trivium. If we talk about, I mean, this one slide could literally go on for 3 hours to put another three in the mix. It could, couldn't it? It could be a whopper. But again, the principles are there. The thoughts, emotions, and actions. These are three kind of important things to relate to.
Which brings it to that. Brilliant.
Yeah. So this is another thing that it relates to. I'll put our pictures over there just so we can see that slide. So the triune brain, and again, some people might have heard of this. It's not a new thing. It's part of the brain anatomy, and we can think of it as being in three parts. And I mean, this is probably one of the most simple explanations of the triune brain with a simple picture. 3 parts, and we'll start off with what's known as the reptilian brain, or the R complex, which is simply instinctual. This is our fight or flight response, this is where this is centered. Some people call it the dinosaur brain or the lizard brain. We can say that this is represented by the number 666. Obviously the number of the beast. But we'll move on to the center part, or the limbic brain, and this is responsible for emotions or feelings. And again, if we've got no emotions or feelings, it's because our limbic brain is underdeveloped, or if it's overdeveloped, and our consciousness resides in the limbic brain. This is another name for this is the animal brain. So if we focus our consciousness within this segment, well, we have got animalistic thoughts, which again, I'm not saying we shouldn't have this, but what we're not doing is we're not establishing the center of our consciousness from the higher mind. And that's where we're going next, because this is the center of our rational and a deeper thought or thinking process. Our higher mind is established in the neocortex. And another way to understand this region is to call it the human brain. So we've got the reptile brain, the animal brain, and the human brain. And we can represent the human brain, again, just notionally with the number 777. And this kind of relates in an esoteric substance to perfection. So perfected thoughts, perfected emotions, and perfected actions. So if we're establishing perfection from all three of these centers of consciousness, well, this is what is going to change the world. It'll certainly change ourselves. And when we change as individuals in en masse, that's when the world starts to change. Nathan, I'll let you add to that.
I mean, right, okay. So I've got a whole presentation so the last couple of slides especially, and this is where we get into critical thinking. This is where we get into the evolution of the human brain, from the mammalian brain, from the reptile brain. It's the three stages of evolution, effectively, within animal species. So the way there's a book about this. I think it was a little bit overly simplified, but they're called the chimp paradox, which
Oh
goes
yeah.
into this. And it explains it well enough. It's just I think it was overly simplified. But there's a few other books out there as well that I've read in recent years which delve into this very
Mm-hmm.
specifically. The way that I would summarize, I'm just going to summarize it for now, mate, because you've said that brilliantly. So reptilian brain is instinct, so it's fight or flight. Your mammalian brain is your intuition, so your emotion, but then intuition has to be developed. It's not
Yeah.
instant. It's not something you bought. Well, I suspect you are born with a little bit of it, but you've got to develop it to improve it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your midbrain, your limbic system, is your emotional center, your intuitive center, right? Your feeling center. So then if you can progress above that, then you've got your cognition center, right? This is the thinking process. This is where we're supposed to be excelling as a species. Personally, I would say we've gone a bit wrong. We've been a bit
Mm-hmm.
misdirected. But
Yeah.
that being said, no, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. I think you've done that really well, mate. But we definitely need to come back to this because it is
Oh yeah, yeah. And we
hugely
will.
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
massively. And it's not just important. I mean, the psychology behind this, the biology of this, the evolution of this, it's all really symbolic.
Yeah.
The Eye of Horus is in there. I mean, if you want to take it from a
Yeah,
culprit,
yeah.
there's the Eye of Horus.
Yeah.
There's the creation of Adam. There's your Sistine Chapel. Your
Yeah.
Michelangelo's creation of Adam. With if you just superimpose that over the Sistine Chapel. But equally, there's another way of looking at it, because if you look at it from a different way, it's the heart, and you've got heart valve coming out the top. It's weird, but
Yeah.
anyway,
I
I'm
mean,
going to leave it at that. So
just
brilliantly done.
before, while you've mentioned it, and just before we kind of go off onto the next slide, I mean, there's so much religious and mythological allegory which
Yeah,
talks about how the brain, not just the triune brain, but how the regions of the brain, the shape of the brain, that there's this and there's that. It's just when you
yeah,
realize the esoteric substance of how mythology is formulated, it's just fascinating.
yeah.
But
Ooh,
again, I'm going to
like that.
shift us a little bit. Where can I? Oh, there's no space to put us. Right.
Uh, yeah, I'm not sure what do you want.
No, I'm going to cover up the word sleep. So asleep, awake, or enlightened? Question mark. Right. So I'm going to put us there. Right. Right. Many people in the truth and freedom movement, and again, I'm not having a dig here, but they consider themselves to be awake, and we've kind of established this and the terminology. But if more, truthers progress their level of spiritual understanding further by means of precision education, which we talked about, we can
yeah,
begin the task of enabling greater freedom into our reality. Truthers, again, a little bit of opinion and observation here, but truthers are focusing far too much time and effort upon the sleepy population instead of focusing effort upon their own battle winning mentality. And I've put a little picture up here to kind of describe that to a degree. 1, 2, and 3. So first picture, again, it's not the most detailed picture, but you get the idea.
I like it.
This is basically people who have got blind belief in the matrix. I mean, I've used the word clueless. That sounds a little bit derogatory, but you get the idea.
Mhm.
So that people are clueless. They're not sure what's going on, or they're just not. They've got no idea. A lot of people. They obey and they consume. The second picture. This is a lot of people are kind of trapped here, I think, and I'm sure you'd probably know where I'm going with this,
Yeah,
Nathan, but a lot of people are still clinging on to the matrix. I mean, this you could say fake awake.
yeah,
A lot of people will kind of get involved in protests or sign petitions. Basically, they'll still have that belief that government have got the rightful authority to dictate their lives and will comply to that system because they want it to work. Now, I will quite often have a pop at what I call Trumpeteers,
mm,
who, Trump, very interesting character. And, I'm not knocking the fact that this guy's quite an enigmatic, charming bloke.
mm.
But a lot
Yeah,
of people have fallen for, his willful schemes. A lot of people have. And why? Because they still want the system to work. They want the system that they're accustomed to work for them when they can't accept the fact that this system never, well, it's always worked, but it's always worked to oppose you. It's always worked to
mm,
enslave and entrap, entice you into the beast system. But what we need to be is we need to be at position 3. Leave this behind. We need to exit the matrix, exercise our own conscience because we've developed it and become ungovernable. And this is a process of educating ourselves, and for the truly enlightened are doing the work of educating others into seeing the light.
yeah.
That's so if you're awake, you need to be teaching this stuff. And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to say people aren't awake. They need to be leading by example by showing how they've
Yeah.
exited the matrix and they're living a life based upon objective morality and natural law. Educating it publicly, Nathan. I mean, that's what Mark Passio,
Hmm.
people need to be familiar with his massive body of work. He will say that people need to be educating on natural law publicly.
I think there's a whole slew of information in this particular presentation that would do everyone in the world a good, if I'm being absolutely honest. I mean, I don't really want to add to that because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, without offending people. I mean, yeah, okay, petitions. I mean, just I think we've discovered that petitions are completely a waste of time, which is ridiculous because they shouldn't be.
Mm.
They should be taken into consideration and listened to and
Yeah,
taken as a
exactly.
sign of the, protests. I've been on plenty myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably go on more if there was some. I mean, I would. I mean, well, we've had this discussion in the past, haven't we? It's not going to change the government's mind.
Yeah, yeah.
What it can do is it can have a positive effect on people. It can
Mm-hmm.
it can show the people on the sidelines the issues that you're trying to raise. So
Yeah.
it's got its positives and its negatives. The fake awake, I wouldn't know anything about that. I wrote a book on it. So apart from that, I just
It's a
and
snappy title.
I couldn't resist, mate. Um, there's a little anecdote behind that. It was a former friend of mine who
Mm,
I would also describe as fake awake, and he's a good lad. I like the lad, but my God, some of the stuff he's
mm,
fallen for. I like the lad. He's not a bad lad, but he's
mm,
without going into that. But anyway, he came out with it with a term flaky awakey, and I meant I said I prefer the sound fake awake, and it's just he was like,
all
oh,
right.
that's good, that is. I like that, and I was like, yeah, I like it too. I think
Oh,
I'll keep that for in reserve for something, and it's just like, oh, I'm writing a book, but I don't know what fake awake. So, but anyway,
I like it.
but well, it was good. Again, I'm not having a dig at the lad. He's I'm going to
Yeah,
say he's misguided. He's not stupid. He's a good lad. He's well intentioned.
yeah.
He was a good friend. It just disintegrated, unfortunately. But never mind.
Mm,
It is what it is. Um, you've got number 3. Those that have exited the matrix. I would say exiting, or at
yeah.
least on the right path to getting the hell out of here, which is exercising conscience, which is changing people's behaviors, changing your mindset, changing the way you think and you behave and the way you treat others. And that is really when it starts to make a difference. I would say these people are ungovernable. because you cannot enslave, and I've mentioned this, and I
Yeah,
know, no, but you cannot enslave a free man. I don't, that's not the word I was looking for, is it?
a moral man.
Moral man. You cannot. Right. Thank you. I have to say I can't even remember my own bloody quotes. You can't. Sign of the times. God, I'm losing my head. But he becomes ungovernable at that point because he's not going to go along with something immoral. He's not going to go against principle. He's not going
Yeah.
to do something just because somebody says to do it. He's not going to have an opinion just because somebody tells him to. He's not going to believe in something just because it's in a religion, or it's these people, the ones that break away, are the ones that are the advocates for change, positive change, real
Yeah.
world action. And this is why I'm saying that if you really want to have an impact, you've got to do something with what you know. If there's people there listening to this, and there will be, and they're saying that they're more advanced at this kind of stuff than we are, and that might be true. That might be true. I'm not an expert at this. I think it's fair to say neither of us are academics. I enjoy learning. I enjoy information. I enjoy this kind of stuff. I'm certainly not an expert in it. I'm not an academic.
Mhm.
I'd like to think I'm fairly rational, or at least balanced as can be. Um, but at the point where you do know this stuff, or at least if you know it well enough that you can teach other people how it works, even if it's just at a foundation level,
Mhm.
why aren't you? And
Exactly.
Mark Passio would say that everyone should be doing podcasts, and they should all be out there on the internet and putting the information out there. And respectfully to Mark Passio, I understand where he's coming from, because in terms of you and I, yeah, absolutely, we could do that, and we have done that. And
Mhm.
it's I would say it's an obligation that we can't just not
Yeah.
do it. Right? We've done seminars, we've done public talks, we've done podcasts, we've written books. We're doing what we can with what we've got. Some people can't do this. Some people are
Mhm.
shy. Some people don't like the camera. Some people have got emotional problems. Some people have got mental health problems that they don't want to. Then I think in some cases they might actually make a complete pig's ear of stuff like this, and it
Mhm.
might be detrimental not only to them but to the people listening to it. And so I would disagree with Passio respectfully and just say that actually I don't think everyone should be doing podcasts that knows this information. What I would say is that everyone should be doing something with this information,
Mhm.
right? There is always something that you can do that is productive, that is helpful. That's I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to
Yeah.
go too much into that, mate. I think again, well done for the presentation. I like the graphic, by the way. I think that's quite.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah,
That's something off the internet, but yeah,
I like it.
appreciate your
No,
comments, mate.
something.
And
I think everything's off the internet these days, isn't it? It's
exactly. Yeah. Okay. We've kind of mentioned this
well, kinda.
to
Well,
some
it's a
degree, haven't
pentagram,
we?
not a hexagram.
Yeah.
So
Right. So you know what? I'm going to put us there. We're the middle pillar. How about that? We're in between the
that'd be
two,
nice.
like that. The logic and the reasoning measured against the balanced against the flowery and the artistic side modalities of the brain, the left and right. So we're the middle pillar. Do you like that? Anyway, the chalice and the blade, and you touched upon this earlier when you mentioned the Star of David. And there's just a little bit of a diagrammatic format of how that works. It's probably not the best picture in the world to show how the chalice and the blade kind of fits together, but the
It
blade is,
works. I mean, it works.
yeah, we can see there's one sort of pointy bit going up and there's a pointy bit going down.
Is that
And
what we're going for? The
if,
pointy bits. Do
yeah,
you,
exactly.
do you stick
So,
the pointy bit in the cuppy bit? Anyway,
well, can we mention that on YouTube?
yeah. Hey, mate, this is the thing. I was thinking, do you know, this is weird. I was thinking about this earlier, right? I was
Yeah.
thinking, can we discuss sex on YouTube?
Mm.
Um, and I'm like, I'm going to go looking. And in fact, for the last couple of weeks, I've been really delving into stuff. And it's for stuff like this. I'm not
Yeah,
being
yeah, yeah.
victim-minded. It's for genuine research. People are going to accuse me of lying. It's not.
Mm.
It's for research. Um, and the amount of stuff that you can say in regards to sex. I mean, yeah, some of the words you've got to cover up, like
The R word.
cornfields, for
Ah,
example. So
right.
you've got to be careful with that particular word. But in
Mm.
terms of talking about it and discussing it and being, oh God, there's an absolute ton of material out there. Uh I'll leave it at that. But yeah,
Hey, fair
you
enough.
can just be careful not to
Yeah,
use
sure.
certain.
I mean, what I've got on the screen there kind of is about as far as I'm going to go with that.
Yeah,
You know,
I
we've
don't.
kind of
Mate,
yeah
if we can't get away with this, then I've got a few complaints to put in to YouTube about the many, 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 many thousands of channels out there that go way beyond this. So,
yeah.
yeah, there's that. I think we're all right.
Well, speaking of that, I did actually read a list today of some of the words that you can't say, and I must admit there was a mountain of swear words. And I'm like, oh, there's some awesome words. I wish I even knew what that word was. Never mind not being able to say it. But I learned a few choice language words to add to my vocabulary after reading that. But anyway,
Mate,
in the
I'm right.
blue corner,
Can I loophole? Can I go down a bit of a segue on this one? Are you familiar with the Urban Thesaurus and the Urban Dictionary?
no.
Holy shit! if I'm not. I can feel Holly on the other side of the screen
All
going,
right.
no, don't say that,
Don't
don't say
mention
no.
it.
Right.
Is it
um.
is it recommended reading?
Oh mate, it's hilarious. If you think you understand sexual terminology, you know nothing. You've got to get on there and just, oh, it's hilarious. Some of the
Yeah.
descriptions and some of the mad stuff on there. It's like, what? It's mad. But
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that's
Every
quite the
day's a
education.
school day. Well,
It's just a bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the viewers, the listeners, will kind of already be kind of familiar with what this slide's all about because we have kind of covered it
Yeah.
earlier. But anyway, just again, just because it's here, we'll have a little look in the blue corner. We've got the blade, which is indicative of the phallus, which of course is the male
Member?
what's known as the well, I was going to say the generative principle, the bit that makes life achievable.
See, I would disagree with that. I would say that it provides the seed, but it
Yeah,
doesn't incubate it. So I would say that the generative principle is the two combined.
well, yes,
But
exactly.
but
Yeah,
but
and
anyway, yeah.
and that's kind of
Sorry,
what
mate.
this slide is about, really, because without the woman or the chalice who offers the womb to this conception, then again you're going nowhere. So obviously these two opposing principles must be in balance and harmony. And again, we've kind of elaborated on that earlier. So move on to the next slide, I think. Right, I'll move us to one side so we can see the picture there.
Yeah.
So if you are not engaged in the higher mind, you are a victim of cognitive warfare. Right. Higher consciousness refers to a state of awareness where individuals perceive the interconnectedness with all beings and the universe, transcending the ego and embracing a holistic perspective. Right. So I didn't say destroying or killing off the ego. I've said transcending the ego. In other words,
Yeah.
we've moved out of the five sense um, normality of the material existence, and we've taken upon the sixth dimension, the sixth sense, the higher cognitive function. And this is where, if we want peace and tranquility and a world, if you want to manifest that bliss that people keep talking about, well, you ain't going to do it from the lower egoic dispositions. It needs to be from the higher mind, the higher perspective. And again, the reason I'm saying if you ain't done that, you're a victim of cognitive warfare. Essentially, we're all victims of cognitive warfare. Why? Because there's one overarching. I'm going to use the word opponent. There's an opponent in our existence. The thing that makes the beast system works is the thing that's in charge of it, and that thing is government. Well, I say in charge. These are the middle public facing middlemen that manage the human dynamics, the human form. We are at the beck and call of this group who tell us how to live our lives. And this group, of course, the word government means mind control. They are controlling our mind using cognitive warfare effects.
When you mentioned the what did you refer to, the one that was opponent? Is that the
Yeah,
word you used?
opponents. Yeah.
An opponent. So if we take that a little bit further, we can have somebody who opposes us,
Mm-hmm.
who would be considered an adversary. Well, isn't that what Satan is? Or
Exactly.
as Satan within the Bible? Because there's many
Mm-hmm.
Satans within the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It just means opponent or adversary. It means one who goes against, one who challenges you, even. I guess if you want to bring it into a slightly less uh, dissonant form,
Mm-hmm.
it's one who challenges you, one that's been sent to test you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and if our opponents are the government, for example, it might be fair to jump to the conclusion that they may be Satan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Uh,
would definitely say that for sure. I
yeah.
mean, a lot of people will still think Satan is a dude with pointy horns and a swishy tail and hasn't got the best intentions for us. The opponent, the adversary, is anything that tries to violate the conditions of natural law. So we can be our own adversary because the human race, members of the human race, will try to put themselves on a pinnacle and convince themselves and others that the laws of creation don't apply to them. I mean, these guys in the picture laughing their heads off there, they think that the laws of nature don't apply to them, but it applies to everybody equally
Mm.
at all times. It's immutable. It's never going to go away, and all we're going to do is, laugh at the position we've put ourselves in through our own ignorance. Shall I move on to the next slide,
Yeah,
or
absolutely. Yeah, I'm
yeah?
happy for that. How many slides we got?
Right, I've got 40 slides, but I must admit I'm not sure how many I'm up to here. Should I
Well, I was just I have no idea what time it is or how long we've been going for. But I
oh
was
my
thinking if
God, we're only halfway through.
well, that's perfect. Right, okay. So we're
Yeah.
halfway through. So I mean, once again, we've way oh God, we are terrible at bloody timekeeping. We've gone way over. Shall we, if you're all right with it, shall we come back and do the second part?
Yeah,
Um, if you're all right with that, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't do it in the next couple of days if you've got a bit of time free, and we can potentially get that out as part two. How about
that sounds
that?
great. I mean, perfect. That I mean, I must admit, I thought I must be coming to the closing slides halfway through.
I'll tell you, mate. I'm not going to use the word jealous because I don't like jealousy. I think it's unnecessary. But almost envious of those slides, mate, because they're absolutely brilliant. The way that you've done them, and I'm just thinking it's
Thanks,
really,
man.
really no,
Appreciate
seriously,
that.
it's on point. It's succinct. It's enlightening. It's good, full of embedded symbolism, and just the
Mm.
wording that you've used is absolutely.
Hey, did you like the color I've used? It's kind of beige. And I purposely never done this, but
Right.
beige. Do you know you mentioned the Philosopher's Stone
Yeah.
earlier? The Philosopher's Stones. Well, I mean, to cut a long story short, some people use the term brain sand, so
Oh, really?
as in sand from the desert, yeah, because the Philosopher's Stone is broken down and crumbled apart, and again, the word brain sand, and obviously sand is a kind of beigey color, so I
Yeah.
thought that might be slightly appropriate.
Go for it. I mean, you just educated me there because I have no idea as to that. But no, is this one of your? I mean, I don't think I've seen this presentation. Is this one of your most
I've,
recent ones?
do you know, it's not a recent one, but I've never delivered it anywhere before. So it's just
Right.
been, I
Okay.
actually forgot about it. And I thought, oh, no, that's a fairly short one. We'll get that. This is a fairly short one.
Fairly short. We managed to get 20 slides, and we've already gone way over the time slot. Um,
God's sake.
just,
I've just noticed
um,
the time.
I mean, again, look, we right. So let's try and ground this a little bit, right? So we
Mm,
we do get a lot of feedback, especially from the Occult Academy group on Telegram. We do get quite a lot of intellectual, well, no, intelligent discourse in the group. It's
mm.
civil, apart from the Russians. Don't get me started on those. I've had an interesting one with that today. Not even on that group. It's
All
bizarre, but
right.
anyway, um, we get a lot of good feedback. So I mean, I'm self-critical, so I mean, I watch the podcasts back and I go, oh God, why did I say that? And oh, I got that bit wrong, and oh crap, I meant to say that when I said that,
Mm,
and I've said it twice now. Oh, shit, and I swear a lot, but um, I think people do watch it again. Maybe we need to chop them down into smaller parts at some point. So I'll
mm,
consider turning my weird editor thing on and seeing if I can reduce them into smaller segments so that people don't need to watch them in 2.5 hour slots because
yeah.
I get it. I mean, for me it's all right because I can quite happily sit down. In fact, I do frequently. I'll stick a number of podcasts in a watch list and I'll press play and I'll just listen to them as I'm doing
Yeah.
other stuff. So I can do housework, I can do weights, I can do any number of any number of
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
right? I can even play a computer game while I'm doing it, and it's still going in. So
Mhm.
I still feel productive. I'm still learning. Um, so for anybody who likes to just have it on the background, I think 2.5 hours is nothing. Again, you could pause it
Mhm.
halfway through and come back to it. You can stick it in a watch list in a saved playlist or something like. There's numerous ways you can do this. Also, if anyone else does know how to edit and chop it up, look, I've not put a strict limitation on these videos through YouTube. In YouTube, when you upload the videos, there's an option to allow other people to edit your videos, to take it and edit it, and I've allowed that to happen. So if somebody else would like to do that to edit and put smaller segments out there, just all I would ask is that you give us credit for that. If you're going to put it on your own channel, if you're going to clip it or whatever, fine, do that. Just give us a shout out, just by name. Again, Steve James and
Yeah.
myself, Nathan Lucius. If you just put us on there, don't
There,
tell
there,
people that we're advocating for stuff. We're not Satanists
yeah.
and we're not evil and we're not elites and we're not the social engineers and we're not psychopaths. We're none of those things. We don't like it. We don't advocate it. We don't agree with it. So as long as we don't do that, we haven't got a problem. So, but anyway,
In part two, Nathan, we're gonna have some alcohol in the mix.
well, funny you should say that. I picked up a bottle of whiskey today, and
Oh my Lord.
yeah, I know I've restocked my whiskey supply. So yeah, okay, Drunken Alchemist strikes again. Um,
Exactly.
happy to do that. I do like my whiskey, although this chest bloody infection, every time I think it's gone, it comes back. And I'm like, ah, it's getting better, but it's bloody lingering. It's annoying me now.
Mm.
That being said, uh, we'll leave it here. Is there anything you want to get into the nah, nothing?
Yeah, we've waffled enough, I think. We'll waffle some more for part two. I'm
Oh
looking
mate,
forward to that, mate.
it's right, brilliant. Thank you for the slides, mate. They are really, really very impressed by them,
Thanks, mate.
and I think there's a lot in there. I think there's a lot for people to learn. I've learned some stuff, and I've learned to see it in different perspectives as well. So I'm happy with that. For those who are watching, thank you very much for watching the podcast. We hope you come back again for more of our episodes. We seem to be doing a few more, so
Mhm.
hopefully keep them going. It, it's going to be, I think, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. But while there's the 2 weeks that we're doing them, if we can get as much out as possible to
Mm.
keep the content alive
Yeah,
and
yeah.
fresh. So if there is a while, if there's a delay between videos, so like there's a 2 week gap, it's because basically I'm at the other end of the company with my girlfriend. Company. No, tiredness is sitting in the other end of the country with my girlfriend. So it's I'm trying to divide my time as best as I can and organize stuff. So anyway, that's the
Yeah, yeah.
reason for that, and that's why there's a delay in videos. There are more coming. Um, I'm happy to continue doing them. I think there's a wealth of material that we can fall back on for both the Occult Academy, the occult stuff, and for the Fake Awake stuff.
Mhm.
There's a ton of material we can delve into. So if anyone is enjoying these, then there's plenty more coming. That being said, I think I better go to bed, Steve.
Yeah, happy days, mate.
um, thank you very much. No, seriously, that was brilliant. So,
Cheers, mate.
and
Catch you soon.
that's it, right? And for the audience now, you need to go now. It's the waffle's finished.
Yeah.
There's probably food on your table to eat or sleep to be had or better, more exciting things to do, I guess. Off you go. I'm gonna just what are they waiting for? What are they waiting for, Steve? Oh, they're waiting for me to stop
Part two.
recording. Yeah, come back for part two. I'm gonna shut up now.